here. Approval of agenda. The only thing on the agenda, I noticed that there's the election of officers. Is that should that be under the new business? Where's that fall in?
Usually that's an annual thing.
And according to the bylaws, it should happen in July. I think I sent an email on it,
Yeah.
put it on the agenda.
Where should that be on the agenda? Where does that fall?
I think in the email, I
Typically it's,
said to reference a different,
New business?
it was from the
No.
very first thing, before anything.
yeah, typically it's the very first thing. So the current chair begins the meeting with that. And then the new officers then can proceed with the agenda.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is election of the officers. I've been in talks with a lot of people, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of people have talked to me, emailed me, phoned me, telling me that it seems like I've lost the passion to lead the group. But the whole thing is this, though, I haven't lost my passion to be in the Parks Commission. I just am running out of time, to be quite honest with you. So my heart is still with us and what we are all working on. But I would like to be the first to nominate Liz as chair.
And I will second that.
The Parks Commission. Liz, do you accept?
I will accept.
Do we have anybody else that wants to nominate?
So I move the nomination be closed and by acclamation, Liz is our new chairperson.
Congratulations.
That's all scary. I need to campaign.
Yeah, I got to admit, since I've been on, and when I took the leadership, we've accomplished a lot, but we still have a lot more to do. And honestly, this role deserves somebody that can put a little bit more attention to it. My heart is into it, like I said before, but with Liz living up here and being an active part with everybody else, I just think she's going to fill that role very well. So I'm looking forward to it. So I've seen her in the Manistee Advocate several times, so I know she's going to do well.
I'd like to nominate Kelly as the vice chair.
Second?
All in favor, Kelly, you accept? Oh, very good. Kelly as vice chair. Secretary, I'd like to continue with Laney, if she'd like to continue that role.
And second that.
Very good. Our committee's been established. Liz, you get to take over. Congratulations on your new role. Look forward to working.
You're going to thank you. First of all, Tim has done an excellent job. He's a hard one to follow. He has a natural enthusiasm. And the Parks Commission has made strides. I love this group of people. We've got a lot of diversity in our backgrounds and in our everything that we bring to this. So let's just keep pressing forward. I think it looks like we don't always get stuff accomplished, but I think at the end of the day we have.
Yes.
So let's just press on. I will watch out.
Good job.
You guys, good job. Thank you. Kelly has so much passion. Thank you. This will be a
You
good trip.
just don't ever be absent.
As Bob will tell you. And I also thank Bob for his
Yes,
vice chair. So
Exactly.
I honestly think-
Bob's done a great job. He's
Yeah.
been very faithful. I respect every time you give your report on the park that you adopted. You follow through.
all right, very good. You take over.
Approval of the minutes, approval of the agenda.
Well, as modified, I think we approve it. So you didn't modify it by electing officers. So
Yes.
as modified, I recommend that we approve it.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. The next thing is a public hearing, and I know that Tom Swinburne has requested to speak. Tom?
Sure. My name's Tom Swinburne, newcomer in town. About 23 years. I used to be a member of this august group. Glad to particularly hostile now that I see that arrow.
Can you see Tom in the video? Okay.
Well, nonetheless.
Not at all.
Before I talk about paddlecraft, I'd like to talk about beaches just a little bit. I saw Jeff earlier this week and was eager to point out to him that the rim was broken down at Fifth Avenue Beach. Glad to hear you guys are already all over that, because it is missed. Young people enjoy that basketball. And I'm delighted to see the children's merry-go-round after years is fixed, that thing's green. I mean, just a little puff of air and it starts going around.
He's fallen off it 3 times, he said.
I want to get some of us elderly gentlemen over there, see how many RPMs we can get. It's slick. Maybe we got EMS thing.
Yes.
And then I would be remiss if I didn't bring up, out of sense of fealty to Aaron Pontiac, who was chairman when I first sat in this commission, the tether balls at the beaches. Are we getting them?
Yeah, we have the balls. I thought I had the posts. Ended up there were posts for some other project. I now have our welder getting new posts, so we're going to make our own posts. He's putting concrete in right now. I anticipated having them in by 4th of July, but unfortunately, he's demanding concrete and doing other stuff right now. So it's on, yeah.
This season?
I hopefully this next week when we come with concrete.
I hope so. We've been talking about this for
Yeah,
4
and
years, perhaps.
we've ordered them 3 different times, and they never showed up. Then we ordered them with some other stuff, our new signposts for Land Pavilion and tennis courts. The balls showed up along with 2 posts. They ended up, the posts were not for the tether ball. So we, yeah, and that was, I didn't open the package because I was sure. So yeah, it's my fault. Yeah, you'll get them.
Not here pointing fingers. Moving on, I had some thoughts about propeller craft. I remember there was some urging from the state level for us to increase accessibility of the waterways for kayaks, canoes, and I thought we were looking for ideas for the 9th Street boat launch, perhaps as we expand that through a land exchange or not. I thought perhaps Public Works could construct over there some storage facility, racks, for that people could lock their kayaks or canoes on. Not everyone has trucks or roof rack, and might increase accessibility that way. Perhaps we can come up with a system where you buy a $5–10 decal for the season and be able to lock your boat over there. And launching it, it was hard for me to describe, but there was an article in the paper described the launch that they installed out at the state launch facility at Andy's Point in Portage Lake. I viewed it from the water. It's kind of interesting. You go out on the dock, put your boat in between 2 rails, and it's held steady, so you can climb down in. It's not very tippy, and then you sort of launch yourself by pulling on those rails. I would urge the commissioners to perhaps drive out there and take a look at it. It's at the state launch facility, past on Andy's Point, and I'm not sure how. I expected, traditional launch going perpendicular to the shore. This is out on the dock, and sort of parallel to the shore, but it might be a good usage.
I like your idea, Tom, only because I've been at the boat launch and I've seen the kayaks come in. I've also seen people slip on the ramp, as they bring the kayaks in. So,
I saw a lady dislocate her shoulder
Yeah.
last year.
so obviously, we have unsafe conditions. To get to, the dock doesn't work, the boat slips. So there's something that needs to be done for those, for that group of people. So I would go ahead and try to spearhead some type of subcommittee to see what it would take to construct something like that. I mean, Jeff, working with Jeff, DPW.
I think since I've been on, and for good reason, nothing's been attempted at 9th Street Boat Launch. But I think that's next on your agenda, isn't it, really, as far as big project?
Not necessarily, but probably 12 to 15 years ago, we actually applied for 2 grants and received them for 9th Street Boat Launch. One was to improve the launch itself and to put bathrooms and car trailer parking there. The other grant was through the Great Lakes Fishery Trust, and that was to provide universal access to the fisheries. And that was to install additional car parking there, to install a linear walkway along the shoreline, fishing piers, and there was also discussion about a kayak launch at that time. The city didn't own the property. We had leased part of it from Consumers Energy, part of it from Morton Salt. And so the city back then I was the engineer, but the city decided not to proceed with all the expenditures without having full control and ownership of the property. So that's always been in the back of my mind and personally been kind of in my master plan. You probably have read the articles in the paper, but when Mr. Furcano bought the 440 River Street building, the deck that's out behind that building and actually a part of the structure itself is cantilevered over city property. And the city has leased that property to the restaurant owner for 20, 30 years, a very long time. Mr. Furcano said, I would like to invest in it, but I would rather own the property and upgrade it than upgrade on some leased property. So the city decided, city council supported selling a portion of that land to Mr. Furcano, and checking to make sure that we had all the legal rights and didn't do anything wrong. We discovered that because that parkland was acquired through state grants, the U.S. Park Service requires what's called a conversion. And a conversion means that you have to create new parkland of equal or greater value than the land that you're disposing of. So, and until you do that conversion, you are deducted points from every DNR grant application that you submit. So we have a DNR application in to upgrade Memorial Park. And so we are holding to see how we score on the Memorial Park grant before council considers selling that land. If we receive the grant, then we can proceed with the sale. If we proceed with the sale, I propose that we use the portion of a 1 acre portion of the 10 acres we acquired from Morton Salt as part of our treatment plant expansion to formally develop 9th Street. And so there would still be a portion of it that's owned by Consumers Energy, and we would still try to, work to possibly acquire that. But basically from the physical boat launch north to the current gate of the treatment plant and then up to the railroad tracks is about 1 acre. If we do the conversion, the Park Service requires us to do a master plan. So the master plan would need to be created probably through the Parks Commission and city staff. But we have to be careful because whatever we put in the master plan, they're going to expect us to improve. But that is probably the best candidate to site something for kayaks. We studied it when I was, again, the city's engineer. We studied it at length when we upgraded the Arthur Street boat launch, but it was chose to put an ADA accessible fishing platform, upgrade the boat launch, and then there wasn't enough room to add the kayak launch without creating conflicts with the other two uses. So we've just been kind of waiting for that perfect spot for it.
Questions. It's my understanding that Mr. Furcano is happy to delay any purchase till next year, which helps us all.
Correct.
And would DNR give us extra points if the plan included a launch specifically for kayaks?
It wouldn't have. It wouldn't. You mean if we applied for DNR grants for the 9th Street site?
Yes.
There are scoring. We would get points for any handicap accessible improvements. And right, because currently there's nothing there. I mean, none of it's accessible. What's that?
Would this necessarily fit into other handicap?
Yeah. The system that Onekama put in has been around for quite a few years. That's actually the same or similar system that we had looked at for Arthur Street. It's made so that it stabilizes the canoe or the kayak so that anybody can get into them very easily. They're easy to launch into the water then, and they're also easy, because it works on a roller system, they're also easy to get up out of the water and then get yourself out. So they're very nice. I've never used one. I do agree with some of the comments that were already made that there's a lot of usage in this community. And years ago, the non-motorized transportation committee, which then he kind of got rolled in with the parks, they wanted to create a water path. I can't remember exactly, a water trail, water path, but it was something that people on kayaks you needed a place to launch, you needed a place to retrieve, but places that they could also go to and go have a drink, go have something to eat, tie up and shop, and kind of make a water trail, within Manistee Lake, the rivers, the river channel connecting Lake Michigan, and so has been a priority for a while.
Travis has that. It's nice. Those are nice.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, we'd like to hand, thank you, Tom, good report.
I would like to just mention one thing that, since it came up already, the boat launch, when we get warmer water during the summertime, just algae grows on that concrete. We could not get a broom. We could not get a replacement broom, because what we do is we've got an attachment that we actually broom that concrete and kind of scrape off all that stuff, and Mickey and his staff do that periodically. We wore our broom out, and they're replaceable, so you just take that broom off, you put a new one on. We can't get a replacement broom. So we purchased a new full broom attachment because it came with a broom, and we finally got it late last year when we cleaned up US 31 in preparation for the summer. That broom wore out, can't get a replacement for it. So we bought a whole nother unit and got a good deal on it, because the one they sold us before they can't support. So
Yeah, I was just kind of making a comment, it's just unsafe for kayaks.
it's not intended
Well,
for
it's
them.
unsafe.
Yeah, it's not made for them, but that's where they're launching.
Yeah.
So
And-
when I saw this lady fall, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But they don't know that.
They don't know the secret.
Exactly, so it's just not a acceptable launch for kayaks. Or what they do is they come down the river and they just
They
get
want
off
to
there.
get out there.
Because that's where they want to go, and I'm like, if I'm out there, I'm like, be careful.
Yeah.
That's really, I've slipped myself putting our boats in too, so, yeah, just looking for something a little bit more accessible for people, because obviously that river's being used a lot with kayaks.
Mm-hmm.
So that we don't provide a launch for them to be.
The other space that I've seen used but not heavily used is next to the rotary deck at First Street Beach. So if you go the Lions Pavilion, and then you've got all the cabanas, then there's that sidewalk that goes out to the deck. It's where there's a path that goes down in between the pier heads into the harbor, and that's where the Catamaran Racing Association launches all their craft. But it's not the same kind of thing that Tom is referring to, but that's very calm water. It's pretty shallow. It's pretty accessible to unload a kayak and just drag it through the beach down the bank. It's not real steep. I'm not sure how we could promote that, but there's kind of that natural existing spot that's there right now.
But even with what Tom's proposing, that would not be in the near future. We're not talking about a year or two before we can even implement something like that. That just seems like a long-term project.
I think the conversion process is going to take at least a year to a year and a half. The process is crazy. We have to have an appraisal done on both parcels. We have to hire a government-approved appraiser. Then we have to hire a second appraiser to audit the first appraiser's appraisals. Then we have to do a SHPO review, an historic preservation review. The state used to do those for you. Now we have to hire a consultant to do that. So there's at least $14,000-15,000. Probably the proceeds from the sale of the land would be eaten up just by the conversion process.
Say, Jeff, can I ask, is it possible just to advertise maybe with signage or something else at First Street, that's
It could.
a good location? I don't kayak yet, but, yeah, I would not have known that was.
Yeah, even if you remember, there was a paddleboard business that set up right there, and that's where she accessed her rentals and did her training and stuff, was right there. So, yeah, we could come up with something.
Should we appoint a committee, or is it too premature? Is that what?
Sounds like it's too premature. Now that we're delayed another year.
What do you
Well-
I had to wait through that whole sewage thing, and now I gotta wait.
Start to look at it, or will it be another tell-all? You know?
There's no room, Jeff, on the First Street launch to put any kind of structure for the kayaks at all. Because it seems like over on the, what would it be, the east side, where you have more of a space than the west side. Maybe I get my directions wrong. It seems like there's pretty much a very wide opening, you know, where no wood structure could be made to look into putting into there, or,
I will never say never.
yeah.
It's possible. You want to get it as far away from the boat launch as you can. And you've got to think about the peak fishing season when you've got all those boats coming in and out and in and out, and you don't want conflict. But you can create a barrier-free pathway, you know, even through the stone that we put in there. You can affix, this is all pile-supported structure.
I think that area honestly would support that.
The,
You know,
the
being
biggest,
on-
the biggest concern I would have is it would never last during the winter time.
Correct.
I guess then that leads to the question, is there something temporary that could be devised at night?
I think
I
we should
mean,
have a couple
take a
people
backhoe
on-
and make a ditch to the lake. You know, get rid of some of those willow trees, you know, put a Band-Aid in it.
I think two people should be on a committee that we should look to see, maybe go up to the one in Onekama and look and see what other towns are doing. Kind of look, and then look at various sites in Manistee and see if we are on track for the right site. Maybe open it up to other sites, maybe 9th Street, maybe First Street, but look at the other sites. Just kind of lay some groundwork. Would that be, I think that might be.
That's
if any two people
your
want to
purview.
Just kind of look at it.
I'll throw my hand in, yeah.
Okay, Karen, thank you. Anybody else got anything? Just, you know, we're not looking, just,
Oh, it's important to form this subcommittee.
I think form the
just to be
subcommittee, because then you're
accountable.
open up, if you go somewhere else, you might see one, or if you drive up to an ECLA, you just start laying the groundwork, and then as you visit your parks, you say, you know, here's where I'm seeing a lot of kayakers, here's where I would suggest. And it might be, you know, it might be 9th Street, or you look at 9th Street, so, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you both. Thanks, Tom, for bringing that up, because I think that would be very well used. So I think that it would be, and it's not just, I mean, it's accessible, but when you think about it, you know, Dan's had 2 knees and a hip. And it's hard sometimes to get into a kayak. So, you know, it's not just, it would be very well
Do
used.
you have two people? Or is it
Yeah.
just you? You two, okay.
Obviously, with the construction at the treatment plant, I've been down there several times every week for the past year. It blows my mind how much that 9th Street gets used during the summer. But during the winter, if anybody's been down there during the winter, the usage is 20 times more for ice fishing access.
So that has to be-
Used a lot.
There's got to be 30 to 50 cars a day down there.
Part of it is it's free. You know that, people are attracted to it.
Well,
and not to-
But
It's just
most of the
good
usage
for sport.
is people just fishing from the shoreline.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the water there, 30 feet out, is 20 feet deep. I mean, it's a straight drop off.
It's a neat spot. Okay. Did you get a chance to look at the meetings?
Well, the only problem is, these say May 19th, but it was a June 16th minutes that we were looking for.
There's both.
There's
You
both.
should have both, yeah.
Here. I mean, you want it right now. Okay.
stand corrected. Thanks, Katie.
Okay,
Make a motion to
I
approve.
make a motion to approve these minutes for the June 16th
A
meeting.
second.
Minutes approved. This part?
No. I mean, it passes for the record.
For June.
For the June ones, was there a correction, Rainey, that we should make?
Well, I had requested, I believe there was a motion under new business. There was a motion for me to write a letter.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a motion, because Tom did it. I requested that change. It is.
I couldn't open it, I received it, I couldn't open it.
Oh, I'm sorry, here it is.
So do we want to approve the minutes as corrected, or do you just want to?
I want to write.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on. Okay, good reports on the disc
No,
golf.
we have to approve the
Oh,
main
the-
minutes too.
We didn't approve those
We
in the
just-
last one?
Yeah, we tabled them.
Okay, we tabled the main minutes and,
So,
I make the motion.
did you get all that? Who made the motion to approve it? And who seconded it?
Liz and Tim.
Okay. And now for the main minutes.
The main minutes,
Yeah, but sorry, Jane has a concern and she doesn't know where she's going to be on the agenda.
Although my name is at the end of the agenda, which I don't know why.
I don't know if she'd be on the public hearing or comments or what.
Citizen comments
no.
were when Tom was speaking.
Anything Jane Seifert, not Shinky at the end. So are you referring to public comment?
No, that's Jane Seaver, that's correct. At the end.
At the end, not Jane Shinky.
No.
At the end. Jane was saying she's on the end.
I don't know why my name's on the end.
It's
I don't
not.
think it is, Jane. I think it's Jane Seifert.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jane S., but Jane Seifert.
Speak, you shouldn't speed read.
Okay. Did you want to speak? Can we go back and, you have public comment, right?
Now, should I?
Sure.
Yeah, let's go back.
Oh, okay.
Let's go back, because I thought Tom was the only one going to speak.
Yeah, and my concern, I've been getting out a lot more after being under the weather for a good year or so. And by the way, I was driving around in Yakima, they are doing a lot of wonderful things along the lake shore. In their park, which they call North Point Park, I had to find out where that was. We used to call it the old golf course.
Kind of tricky to get there. Yeah.
And that's where we would go to be away from other things. But anyway, yes, they're doing some great things up there. What I'm concerned about right now, though, is that down at the First Street Beach, for a long time, there's been a kite flying area. And there's been a stone down there with a plaque saying so. And there was a family out there just a few days ago flying kites. Now, is that going to interfere with this amphitheater that has apparently already been approved and ready to go? It
Well-
seems to be the same field.
I would say anything can go on in that field right now. The amphitheater is still a project that's been long years away. So uses of that field would be pretty much open to anybody. There's no first come, first served in that field.
Yeah.
There's no reservation system.
No,
there's no-
but I love the idea that it is an open space for the kite flying, and it was commemorating someone who was very interested in kites at that time, Chris Batmore.
Yeah, nobody needs any kind of permit. I mean, they can go there, it's
Yeah.
open space. So, and I would think until that amphitheater gets built, then those issues would be taken at that time. But right now, I don't think there's any issues whatsoever.
You're talking about the future. I think Jane's concerned with the future.
Yeah.
Well, I just want everyone to be aware of that again, that it did get used a lot years ago, and then it hasn't for a while. And now this summer, there's been use of it.
I noticed that too. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, occasionally people camp there. There's been occasions where they've been given permission to do that. I mean, it's pretty much just an open space that.
And it's good to have open space.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that was all.
Thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
that
Thanks,
up.
Jane, thank you. Correspondence, I probably skipped that one. Any
Oh, no, we
correspondence?
have to finish the minutes.
The minutes.
I thought we
For May 19th.
Okay, May 19th.
See how much fun this is, Liz?
I wasn't prepared to do this.
Do you understand now why I relinquished control?
Yeah. Okay, so
Not to have that pressure anymore, it's so good.
did everybody read the minutes from May 19th?
Make a motion to accept.
Yep, make motion to accept.
Second.
Who made the motion?
I have Liz made.
I made motion to accept. Support was Tim.
Yep.
All in favor, accept the minutes.
Aye.
Moving on, any correspondence?
The one correspondence that I did receive prior to this was from Brian Dunlap again on the softball fields, Jeff. I know he's made some contact with you too about modifications, improvements. We're gonna try to get a subcommittee formed to just try to, my goal when he came here for that meeting was to work with them to help us fix things, you know, and not necessarily make it a part of their project too.
So you have to understand that I can't speak for Mickey. I've had conversations with 4 or 5 different people from that group, and each individually have asked for stuff and have offered to do stuff. So my response to that long list that Mr. Dunlap had was kind of cumulative to all that. He just emailed back yesterday or the day before. I haven't gone through his full response, but I think the majority of the response is that, well, the whole conversation started when they contacted the senior softball group contacted the community foundation and wanted to get grant money. And when so Laura Heinzelman forwarded the person to me, I talked to them, and the 2 big things were they wanted a grant to buy stone dust, and they wanted a grant to buy replacement piping for the top of the fence. Mickey got him stone dust a couple days later. That's something that we have and routinely supply, and then we ordered the pipe, and the pipe is in. Then there was the dugout, or not the dugouts, but the press boxes they're shot. So we're gonna remove those late this fall. I don't remember what the other major things were.
The light.
But he's,
We just rehabbed the lights about 5 years ago.
He said it was still on.
There's one light, he said, that doesn't work at all at night, and that was a big thing, and he stated that he approached you, and it was an expensive fix. That's,
He approached me we talked about that.
And not me.
One leg, I think,
Oh,
on
okay.
third base, and we talked to top line, and they went and researched it, and yes, they have to, let us know how much that would be.
yeah.
so is this something like we need to meet with him just to get this organized? I mean, according to him, he said he talked to you, he said apparently he said that you were short-staffed and busy, but feels that you'd be able to accomplish some of it. But in the meantime, they want to do volunteer work as far as painting, fence repair, replace the yellow guards on top of the fence when necessary.
Did the yellow guards come from the city, or did they come from Reed's Park? I thought Reed's Park was donating them, that they replaced theirs.
No, they got theirs over in the small pieces we purchased.
We purchased brand new pipe. Yep.
Oh, would they put it on? Would you want them to put it on?
That's what they offered to me, that if we bought it,
Good,
that they would install it. So, I mean, it's literally
good,
corrugated pipe,
right.
but they make it yellow. So we need to split it so that they can fold it over the top of the fence. And then we'll probably put somebody with them so we can cut it into the sections that they need. But yeah, he gave me the lengths, and we already purchased that.
Is it here already?
Yeah, it's at the garage. So I would say that I don't think we can fulfill the entire list, but it's something that we're working with them on.
So do you want me to help coordinate that, or are you working good with him?
We should have someone from here.
He just sent a reply back. I think it's been a month since I sent him the responses, but
He sent it to me on Sunday. You know, and my thing to him is like, it would be cool for you guys to take ownership of that, which is what he's doing, and maybe get sponsors that will go along the fence, the banners, remember we talked about that, you know, to generate funds to make some of these changes that you want to make, but it's kind of like one of those things, if nobody's in charge of it, it's just going to go away.
So with all due respect, I think that you have a whole bunch of passionate people, but there is no structure to it. So a whole bunch of them have been reaching out as they talk in small groups and stuff. So I think it was probably a surprise to him to know that so many other people had conversations. But I think if we'll just keep the dialogue with him and just keep knocking stuff off the
Do you want me to
list.
keep the dialogue with him, or do you want to be in charge of the dialogue?
You can participate in it, but I'm happy to do that.
Okay. He's just one of those gentlemen, I think, that's just gonna keep pushing. I mean, I
He's a
understand.
hard worker. He's
Yeah,
a-
but you know, and like he had commented, and you weren't here, but he was very passionate about it. When you go down First Street, it's one of the first things you see when you're coming into the first beach area. And it needs to be,
And it's used.
yeah, it's used quite a bit and it's deteriorated and he just wants to upgrade and it's like,
And they have a group of volunteers.
yeah,
So
like,
he's
so
willing
maybe
to
we could
provide
corral
some
these
manpower.
volunteers.
But I don't think they've spread that stone dust you put there in May.
It's blown away, most of it. And then the green, the yellow type's been there for.
Were they supposed to spread it?
Yeah.
That was the agreement.
So the pipe is already delivered down there?
Oh, we
No,
have it at garage.
the pipe's at the garage.
Okay.
Okay.
But that was a different person
So they're not.
that agreed to those two things. And that's why I tried to explain that in my
So that's
email
what's
to
going
him.
on. So I'll get a hold of Brian. I'll
And
meet
maybe
with their
just
group.
work with Brian.
Yeah, I'll meet with Brian, their group. We'll get it organized and we'll just kind of do a organizational
And
thing.
probably 2 weeks ago, I went down and got my lunch at Fifth Avenue. They always go eat after, and so then the picnic table, you know, grabbed me and asked questions and stuff. And they were talking about the fencing, and so, you know, one of the gentlemen said, I used to do fence, so if you can get me the hooks, I'll grab a couple guys, teach them how to do it, and we can go do all that. So I've got those ordered, but it's fragmented. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What I need to do is get the conversation with them so that they've got a coordinated request, a coordinated volunteer effort, and that we're supplying them and it feels good because we're working deals with this person doesn't know it. So the gentleman that came here, I had never talked to. So he wasn't even aware of all the other side things that have been happening.
All right, so I'll get a hold of Brian and then we'll get it organized.
Yeah, and maybe we could just-
Brian, that's a good group. If you told them we just want one liaison with this.
Yeah, just
you and us,
bring,
just
yeah.
one person.
And, you know, I'd be happy to just meet with him and
Okay.
you if you want.
Yeah, I would just like to be involved because, hey, they asked me to be on the team.
Oh.
Senior citizen, which is embarrassing. You know, to be quite honest with you, I think that I qualify for that.
In
What position do you play?
Probably,
cheerleader. I'm sorry. I forget we're recorded.
yeah, okay, I'll
But-
get that.
Good,
organized.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and understanding in full transparency that we're not able to commit to big capital projects, but there's small stuff that we can do to supplement, and especially if they're willing to provide some labor and some assistance with us, that I think we can do quite a bit.
Okay, I'll make contact, we'll get it organized then, we'll come up with a plan.
And then we talk about the signs, but their benefit goes into the general fund rather than into that field.
Unless they take care of it themselves.
Yeah, unless they do the
Form
signs.
their own group and do it.
Any other correspondence that we received?
I think we all gotten some correspondence from Jen. Seems to be on a regular basis, so, again, talking about our support for the tree limb being taken down, so we can.
And she
that'll
questioned
just-
Morton Park. Did everybody get the letter from Jen Teller?
Yeah,
Yes.
So-
Okay. She has some items.
so
on
she's,
it.
yeah,
It's
I mean,
well written.
she's got good ideas.
It was
so
well written. She has
she
good
has good
ideas,
input,
yes.
so.
And she also said that the tree limb removal would aid in the view of the disc golf, which is true.
Okay,
Okay. Committee reports, disc golf?
Jeff, where are we on that? I know you've been in contact with Tom, so,
So he still believes that the baskets, which is the big nut, will be delivered sometime in mid to late August, or hopefully middle August. Tomorrow morning, we are pouring the final T-pads, so all 18 T-pads will be completed by noon tomorrow. We've purchased the posts for the signs. Tom has come up with a whole sign layout. I think he shared that with you. I think it's very nice. The one question that we have on that is, what should we call this course? And I can get to that. So pretty much where we're at is, as soon as those baskets are installed or delivered, we will rent an auger and be able to drill the holes, pour them with concrete, set those. We moved all the piling off of First Street Boat Launch that we salvaged just to clean it up because it wasn't going to happen early enough in the season. We've got those stored. We're going to use old pilings from the city marina to create obstacles that Tom will place, and it's going to be one of those, okay, one here, one there, and two there, and we'll just drill the holes and set them in. There'll be varying heights and stuff. We purchased smaller signposts that still have that kind of nautical theme to it. And then we're going to get those signs ordered pretty quickly. And then we need an overall sign that kind of announces the name of this course and some of the common rules. We've got the informational box sign already, and we probably will need to build some sort of a bridge or elevated walkway towards Lake Michigan. There's a natural drainage course, and to get from one hole to the next. So we'll be creative with that, probably build it out of those pilings and timbers.
Realistically, you think this whole project could be complete this year, or we're looking at spring?
There's not that much, honestly, to do.
Okay.
And if my intention was to bang this thing out in the spring in a couple weeks and be done, we've spread it out as we've had time to do the little things, just because there was no urgency because we're waiting on the baskets.
The only reason I ask is because this is a big deal when we launch this. I mean, this is a major project of the Park Commission, along with the tetherball, which I can't wait to commemorate that. So, but on the disc golf course, I mean, that's like public information, getting it out, having festivities, having food trailers. I mean, my thing is, I like to do it right, to be honest with you. So, gifts, awards, competition, whatever it needs to take, it's going to just be a big draw. But that takes months of planning, to be quite honest with you, and we need to start working on that now. But the only problem is we just don't have any definite time when those baskets are going to get there, so it's really hard to be able to do that, I mean, I see commemorative T-shirts. I mean, it's going to be a really cool thing. But I just want to make sure when we launch
But
this.
you can have a soft opening now, and a much more dramatic opening next spring. Because you have lots of time to plan for it.
Okay. It's just something to think about.
So Jeff is right.
And then, go ahead.
Typically, does the city go about naming things? Like Lighthouse Park, how did that get its name? Do you remember? I mean, you could call it Lighthouse Disc Golf, it's right by the way.
Well, that's,
I don't know.
I think that's what he had proposed as Lighthouse Disc Park. Does that sound right? Let me look it up.
I think we should come up with a name, to be quite honest with you.
It's the one thing that I am always weird about is it's Douglas Park First Street Beach. That's the official name of the park. So when you have Lighthouse Park, that's a park within a park. And then Rotary wanted to name the new Rocket Playground Rotary Park, which is a park within a park.
We could just name it Manistee Disc Golf, could we not?
I would like suggestions, honestly, from the group.
Yeah.
I think you call it disc golf rather than a park, then it's not a park.
Yeah, I don't like park in it because
Just
it's,
disc
I would
golf.
agree.
but it's a course.
Yeah, or course, yeah, disc golf course.
You can name it.
Let me,
What did you say about?
If something happens to me, Tim O'Connor Memorial Disc Golf Course.
Yeah, yeah.
We could,
Yeah. All right, I think we should come up with a name. We should talk about it. I mean, anybody have any suggestions while we're sitting here?
oh, I guess he sent an email.
Yeah.
Do we want, I mean, it's a way to draw on the public too. Do we want to just put that out, put out a little thing? If you have a name suggestion, when we Give them a season
Talking
pass
about
to our
the
free
advocate.
park.
Looking for public comment?
Yeah, looking for public comment. I mean, a little thing, it's coming soon, maybe a little, we never did put a picture in the paper. A lot of people aren't even aware totally that it's coming. Put something in the paper and say we're looking for a name, and
Competition.
a competition.
I agree.
Can we get a hold of Liz?
The city probably has, the city council probably has, probably larger input on these things.
Yeah, I think if we came up with suggestions.
I think if you came up with a suggestion and
Then
I don't-
ratify the council after, before we award it.
I think we make the signs and move forward.
All right.
Let me show you the signs that he's come up with. He's actually very talented in the graphics.
Who drew the sign?
Tom did.
Okay.
Why can't I shrink that down?
And I think that bridge is important. People are gonna use that bridge, you know, when they sometimes cut through there or walking through it. I think that bridge is gonna be used by other people instead of bridge.
That would just be like for each of the holes, holes 1 through 18.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Just go.
Very nice.
But he sent another one and for some reason it's, I can't shrink the thing down.
So,
It was,
Those are nice.
like, is disc golf Manistee the name he just used for a sample of the park?
well, he's got disc golf Manistee, and then at the bottom he put, this is weird, he just put Lighthouse Park.
Oh,
Because it's next to Lighthouse Park, but
yeah.
Okay, so we'll work on the name.
and then we intend to put the same style of sign at Red Samaric Park for the 5-hole course that's over there,
Oh, nice.
which Tom worked to get a donation for the 5 new baskets there,
Yeah, that's really.
and the usage is through the roof.
Yeah, I don't,
Plus, he corrected some of the layout and design flaws that were there.
And they're using it for picnics and everything. That park now has become a very viable park.
Yesterday, I went by there, and I don't know if you've seen them. They're actually placing mats down.
Yeah, and hammocks.
Well, the mats are to repurpose a hole to make it from a 5-hole to an 8-hole. So you throw at that basket from this part, but then they put a temporary mat down and throw at it from a different angle. To,
And those rec-
so I think this new one's going to get used a lot.
so,
Are we short funds at all for completing the signs and
No, I'm on track.
contract?
so maybe this is where we need a committee. A couple
An
people to
inside
come back with at least 5 names or something.
In short order,
Yeah.
we need to come up with a name so we can get the signage completed in time.
So now that's the public, you're saying, just choosing.
And then, but what I really need is if we intended to buy trash cans and benches for this, and I think I shared with Kelly some of the options that we have. Kelly, I apologize because she just gave me your marked up stuff today. I didn't realize that it was in our office, but you know, I want to select a prototype trash can surround, a prototype metal picnic table, prototype bench, so that when we do a project like the disc golf, I don't want to buy old stuff. I want to do the new stuff and then slowly implement and replace things as we improve.
Do you want help with that, or do you pick those up? Do you want input?
Kelly.
I would rather have input.
You know, on the trash cans and the benches and.
love to. I would love to be
Thank
I,
Good, I'm glad, thanks.
Yeah.
that's just not my forte, so I would love some perspective from you guys on what your vision is, and then we can start implementing it.
Comment. Those are the color scheme that you're gonna be using for the signs? Is that a go on those?
Yeah,
What color are the baskets?
they're blue.
So I would say.
So
Like
at,
blue, like your shirt, probably.
So at First Street Beach, the color scheme, when we started doing the fish cleaning station, the new beach pavilion, and even painting some of the old pavilions by the gazebo, and I was the engineer at the time, but I said, you should come up with one theme color. Fifth Avenue obviously is red, the beach house is red, the Coast Guard station's red, that beach is red.
Yeah.
So when we put up the shade structures, they're red, and I think it all goes really well together. At First Street, we started implementing that blue color, and then when the Lions did their renovation, nobody checked the color choice. So I think we missed a really cool opportunity there to tie the whole park in, but that's okay.
I was thinking the Lions was first, but maybe not. But they had that, they wanted to have a beach shelter.
There's a lot of different-
The shelter was there, the renovation with the metal roofing, and it wasn't there.
So why don't we get some paintbrushes and paint it blue?
You're red.
The,
We want consistency.
the city, I think the city manager went to the Lions and went to their architect, and they were built red. They weren't gonna change.
Well, it matches.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it looks very good. I would not, yeah.
I'm just saying, I think there was a missed opportunity. I don't think it looks bad at all. But that's why we did the blue with the baskets at First Street.
So you need a name by when? Do you want a name?
As soon as possible.
By next week.
I would say, I don't know if we can wait to the next meeting, because I don't think, if the baskets come, we're gonna want them there, but maybe in the next couple weeks.
So how do you want to do this name? Do you want to email, or we've got, Tim, you're kind of working on.
And I'll forward you the
Kelly's
prototypes that
hands on the benches,
Tom sent me.
Yeah, if you could send, I don't think I got that, Jeff, or maybe I
What
missed it.
about the names?
Okay.
Who's good at names? I guess maybe,
I'll work on that all together.
would we all want to think on it if someone comes up with a
Yeah.
name? Bob, you
Yeah,
might
just
send it out.
Send it to Tim.
Yeah, well, send it to everyone.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, just
exactly.
send it
Do
out.
that.
Well,
I actually prefer my original suggestion is that we just go really soft right now. We don't even print the sign. We have all year long until the big spring opening. We have lots of names, city council involved. We get some more here, or whatever it might be. All of you will participate, and then.
But we have to have the name of that small sign.
But the signs,
Yeah, that have to be
the-
on each hole.
the signs are needed for you to tell where the next hole is.
Yeah, we've got to get those.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Do the
5.
signs have to have
But
the
you
name?
don't have the name, you don't have the name
Well,
up there.
you're gonna buy
temporary.
2 sets of signs?
Yeah, no, I think we should go forward on naming that. I definitely
Name
think
it.
that.
Yeah.
So
Name
do
the
the
whole park.
signs have to have the name of the park on each
I
sign?
don't think so. I think it's classy. When
Yeah, I think it is nice.
Yeah.
the examples I showed you, and I'm sorry I couldn't shrink that down, but the one that doesn't have it compared to the one that has it, I just think the one that has it is a little classier. Tom, and I think Tom should be included in this committee.
Yes.
Like because there's a couple things that are important about this course. It's a short course. It's a family course. So, if you golf and you play a real short golf course, it's called a par 3 course. That's kind of what this is to disc golf. So I think he should provide input to you guys.
And I think I like the idea it says Manistee. I mean, I'm down at the beach and there was every license plate from all over today. Just keep beating home. I mean, there's people like, they know kind of, but this is Manistee.
We have the Manistee golf, what was it, Manistee
Golf and country club?
Yeah, I mean, could that be an extension of that, but it's a disc
Yeah,
golf?
Disc golf.
So
That went back, but what you just said, Manistee
Yeah.
disc golf.
Manistee disc.
Then it's a like offset park at the bottom.
Mhm.
We're gonna talk about it. We'll get it all.
Okay,
We'll come up with the names.
so,
And when I first met with Tom, like the first time I ever met Tom, we went to Man-Made Lake and said, because I was showing him vacant properties or properties that might be a possibility. So we took him to Man-Made. He said, maybe. We went to First Street. He said, ooh, maybe here. This could be kind of cool. We went to
Or the industrial park.
You went on M55.
We went out to the non-motorized park. There, you could carve out some real tournament, multiple courses. My point is that if you call it Manistee Disc Golf, I think that limits you to one. And I think if you name the course then we can have multiple courses.
So just, what about just Manistee Disc Golf at Lighthouse Park? Is that kind of what the sign already said?
Yeah.
It doesn't say at.
Actually.
Because then you could have Manistee Disc Golf at Red Schmerich Park, or, I mean, you could have a whole
Yeah.
system.
Because then if you had your little brochure painted, or not painted,
Like
printed. Yeah, I like that, because then on your brochure, it tells you, wherever.
Where to find it.
Visitors Bureau, where to find it, in a nutshell.
Because the parks are already established.
But it,
Yeah.
like Jeff said, it's Lighthouse Park.
But it's Douglas Park.
Douglas
officially.
Park, yeah,
First
officially,
Yeah.
so,
Lighthouse Park is really a playground.
yeah.
Douglas, this thing goes on the whole south side of Douglas Park.
So the baseball fields are Douglas Park.
Yes.
I think we already decided we're gonna do a committee. We decided.
Yeah, committee, we're
Okay.
moving on.
Okay.
Lions Pavilion.
The only thing I got on the Lions Pavilion, the outlets are popping.
We had our top line people down there.
Okay, are those
And the
all?
issue, well, but also, a lot of the issues, the GFIs were popping, the circuits were not popping. And that's, what's important about that is, the GFIs pop to save people. So if you have, weird,
You stick a fork in it.
yeah, or just your cord is not big enough or something like that, it's gonna sense a ground fault. The circuits are fine. It could have been, it was a fishing tournament, it could have been the cords they were using, I don't know, but we got top line down there. There are a few that are exposed to the weather, rain and wise, so they're the ones that we had replaced through top line.
Yeah, we had the same issue at the Rotary Pavilion, and they replaced one there
Last
too.
weekend, we had smoke on the water, no issues.
So are they fixed then, Mickey, down there, or
They've
they're
been replaced.
okay? They've all been replaced. So that issue is.
The ones that were an issue have been replaced. We did not replace all of
Okay.
them.
People brought it up to me because if they're running it, it's one of the
Yeah,
frustrations.
the ones that were popping were the ones that were exposed to weather on the posts on the outside of the building.
Okay.
The other issue down there is those lights, and they are.
We got them now fixed. I have a few bulbs to replace.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
It was
not all
about
of them, because they have to
70%,
get some
and they
bulb.
look nice when they're on.
Yeah, we had an issue with the electronic eye.
Perfect,
So at
thank
the
you.
same time they changed the outlets, they checked
It,
the eye.
it, it took the electrician 2 weeks to figure out where the eye is. Seriously. He even called Gary Neeson, who retired 5-6 years ago, and said, "Do you remember?" Gary said, "My God, I remember searching," but they ended up finding it and got him back into operation.
Put it in more of a prominent
They,
position.
they would have to be removed and powder coated
Can we do that?
if we can fund it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the Adirondack chairs, they look awesome.
4 more came today.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, I have a question. Did you know one of them were broken? The backs of one of them are.
Already?
Yeah, so hopefully, we talked about that, hopefully Comfort Center will be good for that.
They should be.
I didn't know about it.
This is the first I heard about it.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, every single time I've been by that beach, there's 2 people sitting in those chairs.
Yeah, well, are you going to put them, so they're permanent, or are they gonna be able to be moved all over?
The way that we have them right now, because we placed them there just to get the concept out with the public, we want to do these as memorials. This was Kelly's idea.
Well, it was Liz's idea as well.
This was Liz's idea, and Kelly brought it to me. I think it's wonderful. The chairs are costing us $400. To get the plaque engraved and stuff would be, say, another $30, so we're thinking $450 for a memorial. But the vision that Kelly presented to me was to have those things so that they can be set along that shoreline, kind of like at Arcadia Bluffs. Obviously, the 2 that are out there are, and I bought the 2 just out of our operating budget to get the concept started. But we hope to have a whole bunch of them along there. When I saw them used so much, they have to be special order because of the color. Every other color they stock at the store. It's weird, but these 4 came in really fast. So, so I've already talked to the finance director, told him I wanted to buy these on speculation, and then as memorial money comes in, we can add plaques to them and then continue to purchase more. Because I kind of like to get a revolving fund. When people come to us, they don't want to wait 2 months to see the chair, you know?
So I have a question about those. So you know how the benches are on the river? They're kind of just wavy along the river. Can we start with the Adirondack chairs doing the exact same thing as the benches are doing, so they go all the way around the point.
Yeah, I just realized I never answered your question. The way that we install those right now is we just set 2 out there, we put a long cable and secured it in the ground, but we wanted the cable to make it flexible so people can turn the chairs, and then also we can add more and keep them cabled together. But if you want to pick out the locations and the groupings, I'm happy to have you do that.
The design won't stay. The chairs will be all over the place.
But I was thinking, like, if you've got a group of 4 people and they all want to turn them, or they want to
Well,
turn,
my thought was.
so when I meant turning, I mean just kind of
Yeah.
left to right, not,
I still think being stationary is the best way to go. That's just my own opinion. But could we do 2, then 4, 2, then 4?
mm-hmm,
So, and then go around the point like that, like the benches?
mm-hmm.
And then,
Maybe lay out the location, Kelly.
yeah, and then Liz also wondered if we could do white, red and white.
Sure.
So they'd be red and white, red and white, and then do the 2 and 4 somehow. We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Maybe put a picture in the paper, just like, when they each got those accessible chairs. And then if we explained and had 2 people sitting in the chairs that were being used, and we just thought this would be one more addition to the beach, but they're being paid for by memorial money.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting till we got a couple plaques on them, but yeah, yeah.
When
And
we
I,
came around the roundabout, my husband and I spotted them at the same time, and we were both like, oh my God, there's Adirondack chairs, they look awesome.
And I haven't
Yeah.
seen it from a while, but I could give it.
the first 2 literally came July 1st, and we just couldn't get them out there without them and secure them, so. So we got them out there afterwards, yeah. But I'd be happy when we get the other chairs, if you want to go out there and just spray paint like where to put them. And then, but I'd like to get some plaques, and then we can explain to people why they're there and what they're
So
for.
have you sold any yet?
I have one person interested, and I think she's going to purchase one.
Good, great, thanks.
Are they composite?
Yes. So we have Authentic 321, through conversations with one of our council women, secured a storage container that they're getting rid of, or they're donating to the city. We're going to put that at the teen center so that we can keep the ice skating rink, the liner, all the skates, the flooring, all right on site, and not have to haul it back and forth every year. So when I was meeting with 321's owners, I asked them if we could get 2, and the second one, my intention is to store all that outdoor furniture in it during the winter time, so it lasts longer and it doesn't get damaged by ice and snow, and it's something we could pick up and just put in a container in our yard and
Yeah, that's a great idea.
cold store it.
I had one question about the dumpsters too. Is there a flaw in the design? Because you can actually see the dumpster with all the garbage. Wasn't the reason for the corrals was so you couldn't see the garbage?
It's a screening mechanism. You can't make it tight because then it doesn't hinge.
But could there be a panel that's put there that is flexible and you open it or something?
I don't know. I haven't had any complaints, so I haven't looked at it like that.
Okay.
One more thing, can we continue to get the printouts on, what the income is on the pavilion? Because that was a new concept to start, charging for that. And then on this one, it looked like there's might be a little error, like trash bags for $25. Might have been just a posting error on this one, but, and I don't know if this was deposits, or is this the?
What's the total on that, if I could ask?
3,400, total of all receipts.
Yeah.
3,400.
I bet the finance director, we would bring in at least 3,500. He paid me yesterday. So it's been a success. I
Yeah.
got $2 from him. We've only had one conflict to my knowledge. Are you aware of any? So the only conflict we had was Smoke on the Water. They wanted to set up everything beginning Thursday. We had a wedding party that had it reserved Friday. And we stuck to and honored that reservation. And the Salt City Rock and Blues was pretty understanding, although it made it difficult for them to set up early Saturday morning. But we said the wedding was already reserved when they picked the Saturday, so I think in the future, they'll probably reserve it for 2 days to make it a little easier on them, but,
Did they reserve that? I mean, pay?
they did.
Smoking room?
yeah.
Yeah, let's keep our eye, if we can get.
But we even reached out on their behalf to the wedding group and said, can they set up the tents early? Can they put up some posts? And they said, please no, so we respected that.
That's what's nice about renting.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, actually, it's probably saved some grief, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and there was also a request for a cancellation. There was some pretty unique circumstances around that. So I think we granted them because there's enough time to re-rent it. And then we're gonna change the policy going into next year so that it's very clear on if you cancel, what does that mean?
Reservation system gonna be upgraded?
Excuse me?
Is the reservation system gonna be updated?
Timeline.
I like.
Well, the council's decision was to walk first and then run, so they want to get through a year and see how it operated, and so I'm not working on anything right now, but I think that's obviously the goal.
I think because I got that email about the cancellation of the Lions Pavilion and what my thoughts were. And like, at the arena, they don't offer refunds. If you book it, you book it, because it's lost income.
That's through the state of Michigan too.
Yeah, so I'm thinking as a Parks Commission that we should decide, there's no refunds. If you reserve your spot, that's your spot. You just block somebody else from taking it. You know?
On that, are we asking for the full amount in advance or? is it-
Yes.
Yeah, if
Okay.
that's
Yes.
the amount, it's like.
Which is it, it's 100 and 150.
Well,
Hmm?
If they cancel maybe a year in advance, I mean, some kind of
Yes.
That's what we discuss at the staff level, is determining if you're 3 weeks or 2 weeks in advance. It gives people the opportunity to re-rent it.
The other thing is if it is
But-
re-rented, then I would have.
Well, then I would refund.
Then I would refund. If we're able to re-rent it and get our income the same, then refund, but if not,
Because it does take away from the opportunity for me to be able to rent it if I see that you reserved it, and all of a sudden a week before you decide to change, I've already made my other plans. And the city did lose money on that.
Yes.
From my understanding, when they lost that reservation, I mean, it wasn't re-rented that particular day.
So instead
I
of
don't know
time
that.
limit, it's whether or not it's done.
Yeah, so if it can be re-rented, if we can book it, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can do that. I think that's something we should all talk about, and make the recommendation to the city that it's non-refundable unless it's rented out again. Once you book your date, it's your date. So on the Lions Pavilion too, the floor being resurfaced with epoxy, can that be done? Or can you guys do that, or is that something you gotta hire out?
We've always contracted that out.
So, in the Lions Pavilion, it collects water, during a good
Yes.
storm. There's no drainage in there. Any way to put some type of hole to create a drainage so water can go there, so water doesn't collect? Or would that need to be
Possibly,
what's that?
possibly.
the whole slope's a little bit odd in there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's.
the only reason I'm bringing these two things up is,
That's why it gets dirty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, power wash, you realize. it's really
so I had an opportunity to talk with Mick the other day, and we were talking about how the money being generated from the Lions Pavilion, we'd like to make improvements. Because one of my recommendations is, you get your floor resurfaced, put the drainage in there for water collecting, and get the GFIs all corrected. Money that might be needed from that could possibly be taken out of the general fund from what we collected from the park rental. So I'm like, to get that Lions Pavilion up to speed to where it should be, would that be something we'd have to schedule? They have the floor done, they have the drain put in.
Well, I certainly would make sure it drains, because the epoxy, even when you put the skid-resistant surface, it gets slippery.
Right.
If you put the skid-resistant surface in it, then it collects dirt. And that's, Fifth Avenue was like that. You can't mop it because it just shreds the mops.
It's rubberized with stone in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So A would be first the drainage, to put some type of drainage system in there? To put that in there?
Yeah, if it's just little pockets of water, that we might be able to just tap a hole through the concrete.
Just put a cap on it and then water would just drain right through there?
you can even just put sand in it and let it drain.
It really, and it's not just one spot, it's like it
Oh,
drains
it's a lot, yeah.
in all the corners.
I've been there after
Exactly.
storms.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, for someone to have to come in the next day and use it with all the water there, they have to be squeegeed out.
oh.
Does the drain across the sidewalk work? Because it was covered up with weeds when we were doing the edging.
It's just a leach drain, it catches what it catches.
It catches a little one that might have come in.
There's no
from the
drain.
side.
There should have been another one on the other entrance.
Yeah.
Also, we have probably one more day's worth of work out there. Do you guys want to do it again?
I do not review it.
What do we do? But you're so much fun.
More work.
Well, I've got this big moving garage to do now.
I think, Liz, that's all we have to talk about.
Okay,
lines.
but wait, I think Kelly did say,
What is there to do?
We still have to finish
Power
the
washing.
edging, and there's edging and some
Oh, right.
power washing, and then we gotta decide whether we paint.
and then there was painting, and then there was a little bit of trimming, the brushery, there was,
Yeah.
just we're talking about painting the other sides. So there was a day's report.
Right.
But let me know.
Okay,
All right.
Kelly, we'll figure that update on that. Okay. Enough on that, moving on, old business, the view shed letter of support with Mulaney.
Okay, I brought it. I'll be emailing a copy to you guys and stuff. It's
I'm not familiar with what this is.
So Jen Keller came here and kind of what we made a motion last meeting was to just write a letter of support saying, you know, it's real brief, kind of like, and let's, and, you know, I guess I really can't figure out why it hasn't happened. I just can't. You know, it seems kind of minor to me.
I think
In
it
the
does.
big picture,
Are we talking about her specific request?
no, this is a lot of support for going forward. It's something the community needs. And, you know, we're offering as the Parks Commission to help if there's any way. We realize it's not really our area of oversight. And, you know, it just seemed like that was about the only thing we could do. So, no.
So I don't want to go through the whole 9-year process.
Neither do I.
No. I think we're all up to
And,
date now.
well,
If we could sign this-
I'm not confident that you are, but number one, this isn't really a Parks Commission issue.
We understand that.
Number two, the request is a private request to take away a public asset. The public asset is a tree within a park. The Tree Commission has reviewed it at least 15 times. It's been through 4 city managers, it's been to council 3 times. Everybody agrees that it's a public asset and there's no cause to change that tree, trim it, or do anything. The argument for the arborist is the wrong question. The arborist has been asked, if we trim the tree, will it harm the tree? That's not the question. The question it should be, does the tree need to be trimmed? And it does not.
Well,
The other thing is that the precedents would be set that, number one, creating a view means that the city has to maintain that view in the future, and it does not take away from every other resident along Man-Made Lake, the river, Manistee Lake, and Lake Michigan from requesting community trees to be cut so that their views can be restored.
and what this is saying, and what we're saying is, we're aware of that. But the thing is it really, not everybody's gonna run and want their trees trimmed. And that tree, I don't know if you've been, like, out in California, you can't believe how they butcher trees. They like shape them and they survive. So, you know, it's just what the community thinks is right, I guess. And they have an issue, and this is a request of support that we need a process here because it isn't an unusual request for communities. I mean, hey, it might, probably not gonna go anywhere because the matter's been decided. But in the future, any of us may have an issue with a view with it on public land.
And there is a current process for that.
Right, and it, as I understand it, it's due to safety, not for a view. And so that's all this is. It's a letter of support as this Parks Commission. That's about all we can do. We can't change the rules. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah,
But
the-
what about maintenance in general? For instance, the city marina, so many of those trees should be either pulled or pruned, and a lot of landscaping should be pulled. So what about just common maintenance? I mean, you know, a lot of things are overgrown to the point where something
You're
should
walking around.
be replaced. Yeah,
Well, I'll be-
that's what we're talking
But
about.
I'll be honest with you.
That has nothing to do with view shed.
Yeah, and
Yes, it does.
I kind of agree with
You can't
Jeff
see
on
the
this. I kind of agree with Jeff on this, for a standpoint that if I had been at the last meeting, I would have opposed it. I don't want my name on it, and the reason being is it has nothing to do with us, you know, as far as the Parks Commission.
And that's what it says.
Yeah, but to even suggest to the tree commission on how to do their job, you know, or that we support that, I'm like, to me, I'm not comfortable with that at all. And I agree too, I think the issue has been decided, it's done. The city's decided.
The tree commission has permanently tabled it.
Yeah, and I don't want to.
And I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, and I don't want to bring it up, I think it's done. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, Jen has.
Is Jen aware of that?
Absolutely.
Because that is, sorry.
With all due respect, this item has had more public review and more public oversight than anything that I've dealt with since I've been working for the city. I mean, literally, there's been 25 reviews, and I didn't include the planning commission, but they were part of it.
But I do know,
But isn't it
If
an
the-
anomaly though, that we, Manistee, is the only city up and down the coastline,
right, and I,
inflexible about this?
right.
I don't believe
and
that,
firmly
I don't believe that's
believe-
accurate.
That part I believe, I've seen view sheds, I mean, I have seen them when you go along in Traverse City from the water, there's definite view sheds in front of the houses. And
Well, that
But it
would.
may
But
not
but is
be
that public parkland?
Private property.
Is that public,
Some of it is, I mean, you know,
We don't-
even on Harvard,
we don't
you
know.
know, she at least asked, I mean, a lot of people would have just gone down there and cut.
Well, and I firmly believe if the right person comes along and wants their tree trimmed, it will be wood trimmed. You know, because that kind of thing has happened, there is a precedent. And it will happen again, you know, and it could happen to anyone. If you got, city decided we need some trees here, they plant them, it's fine when they're little, but when they get bigger, you lost it. How are you gonna feel about that? So put yourself in Jen's place, and how are you gonna feel about that? That tree could probably use a trim from what I saw. That one branch is
We-
kinda hanging out there like.
and we did trim,
Goofy.
we did trim that tree within the first couple months of this request in 2013. We did trim that tree. And then
I removed
she
it
wanted more,
last year.
and she wanted more and more.
Well, that's
And-
where I was,
And you have to understand that the tree commission's always reviews these requests. They review them very respectfully, and they often come up where they're denied. We've had it at Man-Made Lake, where the cottages, and now there's houses being built, and they wish they could see the Lake Michigan, and there's a public park across the street. We've had them on Webster Court, overlooking Manistee Lake. I mean, there's been many of these that have come forward.
so at this point, I did the letter as requested, even though it's not included in the minutes. So apparently, you either make a motion, or we sign this as was decided at the last meeting. Tim, you know, weren't there, you know, you sign it. Nobody has to sign it. I just did what was requested.
And thank you.
So, you know, and we can put this forward. Doesn't, you know, they're gonna read it, not do anything about it, but we fulfilled what we said we were gonna do. So,
But Jack, I was very much convinced by the presentation we heard, that she'd gone through every city along the way in township, and they all did say that.
And she
yes,
quoted
we
it,
did
I
have-
doubt she misquoted.
But you have to understand, it's what question you ask
and the question
to
was,
get
do we-
what answer you received.
there were
to create
policies
more
I
view?
look at.
And apparently, the cities all said yes, and Township said, yeah. So she came back in the same.
You can go to some of those cities and see their policies, so there is a process. We just don't
Well,
have
policy
it.
that seems to be the toughest now.
Yeah,
Um,
depending who you are.
I disagree.
That's not true.
I think
That's
that
unfair and not
the
true.
tree commission has their policies, they've all set it forth, I mean, I just.
They have a policy for safety.
The ordinance goes way beyond safety. That's unfair to characterize it like that.
It was, what I read, it basically said,
Well, I think, Liz, I think you need to make a motion to do that, or see what you're gonna.
So we got a motion?
well, no, what we need, someone needs to make motion. Are we gonna permanently table this? Or are we gonna go ahead and sign it? Yeah. That's all.
I make a motion that we table that.
Well, after the second, then I guess we don't know what to do now.
No, yeah.
Oh, you're gonna second it?
No.
Oh.
So then we sign it.
So
Well,
withdraw the motion. make
A
another motion.
defeated motion, a non-acceptable motion does not mean that we've had a motion to proceed. So you make a motion, say, yes, we will proceed. Sign it, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, is
And
there a
we
second to
email
that?
and have it done with.
So you want to withdraw, Tim, and does someone else want to make, what did you say, Bob? Do you want-
I just made that motion in
Okay. So
a
you made a
backward way,
motion.
but that is the motion that was made, that we sign it as part of the park commission, understanding that our view, anyway, at least my view, is that the presentation was that we're an outlier as a city, and I don't understand why we're that way. Jeff disagrees, but I should like to go through and look at all the time that there have been presentations to the park, to the tree commission, where they've said, fine, we'll agree, you want to have a better view, you can do some trimming. I don't think that's happened.
Or that people have requested that.
Yeah, not how often has that been requested?
Yeah.
That's, I guess,
And there's
that's
no-
what the other cities were saying, that
Yeah.
it's happened once a year at best, some say never. You know, that it's not like everybody's calling every week to have a tree trim.
Okay, so I'm gonna sign this.
Okay, so you got a motion on the table, Bob, do you have any support to that?
I'm gonna sign it.
Okay, aye.
That's fine.
Opposed? Aye.
So Jeff, I'd really
Yeah.
appreciate it if you would find some minutes in the tree commission.
I was gonna call each of those communities and actually get what was asked and answered, because the question should have been, would you cut a public tree down in a park for a private view?
Trim to enhance the view.
Fine, trim.
Right.
Trim a tree in a public park for a private view. She didn't ask that question.
That's what, yeah, that's the question.
That's what the policy.
I will guarantee none of those communities were asked that question.
Well, there's forms.
Well,
And you
maybe-
can go to, like, I can't even remember what websites, I printed one off. I mean, was that? And you could say what you wanted it for, and if it was just for view, it was a choice.
The water spot, yeah. Look, she had cited those spots.
So it was easy.
I've heard it for 9 years.
Yeah. So, the evidence shows it is out there.
Okay, we'll pass that around and we'll pass. Moving on, new business, Fifth Avenue mural.
I just
What about
put
the
that out.
tennis courts?
Yeah, the tennis courts.
Oh, sorry, that's the tennis courts, the Fifth Avenue tennis courts, where are we with that? Good question, this is probably Bob's question.
Yeah.
The nets are back up, but no one's playing tennis. And I believe that the commission could review the fact that the tennis courts are unsafe, people do not use it. Why don't we repurpose that space? And I think that we had a consensus on that vote, that we wanted to repurpose that space. And I think that's still on our minutes, that this is what we want to do. We want to repurpose that space, take down the fences, take down the nets, use the concrete pad as a basis maybe for putting up a larger tent around it. People could come and have weddings, they could have receptions, they could do other kinds of activities there. We could even set up a way of making money if you want to have a reservation system there. But
That was
we
all
would take it,
discussed
we would take it
last
down
year.
and start with the thinking that once we get it down, we'll come up with all kinds of creative ideas to be able to use that space better than it is currently being used. Or not used.
I think that it's the bigger picture in that though, is if you're gonna do that, we gotta have a plan ready to go, because I'll tell you this, though, there's a lot of people on the north side that would meet resistance to that, taking that down, and we better have a reason. I mean, your reasons are solid. There are some unsafe things, either they get fixed or.
Can't fix it. You cannot create a tennis court
Yeah.
on sand. You
Well,
can play a different
Well, it's
kind of
been there
game.
for a lot of years though, I'll give you that. To me, it's nostalgic. I mean, that's where I wanted to play tennis when I was with my father.
But I also disagree, we don't have to have an ironclad specific plan, except the fact that we are working to reposition, repurpose that space, and here are some of the ideas that we have.
And I think when we talked about that was a master plan of what we were gonna really do with that area, because that would all encompass that. And I don't think anything, honestly, has been, from what I remember, it hadn't really been decided. And I'm sure, as Jeff will tell you, it's not just simply just taking it down. There's so much more that has to go with that. A lot that has to go.
Only if we make it more.
No, I'm talking.
Basically, it's our recommendation.
Yeah.
Just in charge, he can make a decision whether he's gonna follow through on our recommendation, or whether he's going to listen to maybe the broader north side community. I don't know, but I don't know why we can't take action. We voted on this before, we think it's a good idea, we want to use that space differently than it's currently being used, so why can't we proceed?
Yeah, I believe that you voted in favor of discontinuing the tennis courts and reutilizing that space, and I think is when you had your meeting at the Fifth Avenue Pavilion. I think you voted on it when we had the meeting down at the Fifth Avenue Pavilion, or the Beach House.
No, we had it here.
That's when it was voted on?
He was here.
Okay, I remember it at least being talked about there, but
Well, we've been talking about it for a while.
yeah, I understand. And I had requested that, that it be incorporated as part of the master plan process for the two beaches, so that we could take a very informed and enlightened plan moving forward. Because if we're not ready to put something there today, taking down the fence and removing the netting simply takes away the little bit of use and is going to stir up a lot of upset people on the north side.
What more do we need to say than we'll use this for the public to be able to use it in ways that they would find beneficial, like maybe having weddings, like maybe having receptions, like maybe having a dance. It's open-ended. It's not, you can't use it now.
So you're suggesting if we, say, took the nets and the posts down, then people would use it for other purposes?
Well, that would be the first step, but that was still limited in terms of what could be done. Theoretically, you could like smoke on the river. You could put a large tent over that area, but you have to have the fences down to be able to cover that area with a large tent. For a reception, for a wedding, or whatever else might be someone's creative idea.
Leave the cement, is that what you're, leave the cement to replace the
Yes, leave the
cement?
cement.
Take down the fencing and
Take
the
down the
posts
fence
and
and-
the nets.
Right.
Okay, and leave the pad there.
Leave the pad.
Is the pad in usable condition for?
Yes, I think it is.
It's in pretty good condition.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's
good.
But did Mickey say that they were making tunnels underneath?
Yeah, I just filled it up again last week.
The concrete's cracked on the south side. There's a huge crack over there. I mean, I would say 3/4 of it.
Is that what it was? They were tunneling?
Yeah.
I
And last year, maybe the year before, Ed had called, and I went over and filled it up and down.
remember.
Tunneled again, and that's where it's cracked at.
And when you fill them, is it safe after you fill them? Is the structure safe after you put it?
Sand underneath it, no different than anywhere else on the slab,
Yeah.
But that's what'll cause the differential settlement, and it'll crack the concrete, but it's not a collapse issue.
Yeah. Is there a fine for doing that, or?
It'd be malicious destruction of property if you could catch somebody,
Are there cameras down on that?
not for around that area.
Kids are tunneling under the tennis court.
That's what he said, yeah.
Yeah, Ed Hagler, previous chair, caught them on the weekend, and they called us and I went the next day and flew it in with our skid steer, and then we got another call, I think it was last.
Yeah, we had another one last week.
Can't remember when.
I guess it's good they don't tunnel underneath the gas house.
It's like kids digging into a snowbank.
There is a
tennis
safety
court, there's
issue.
plenty of sand there to dig in.
Yeah.
It is, you can twist the ankle slides.
Okay, so there is a safety issue.
Yeah.
And the grass that is growing up around the fence does not look good. And if it was just a pad, a tent could be put up for different types of events.
And there's
they're
big
charged.
weddings there.
Yeah,
Valuable spot.
Right.
so
You even have an old priest, volunteer services to be there to offer weddings.
there you go.
If you remember from the very beginning, I opposed that.
Right, we understand that.
Yeah, when we voted on it. And the only reason I
Did you
opposed
have
it.
dinner tonight?
No. The only reason I opposed it, because I agree with Jeff, it's not that simple to just take something away that's been there for such a long time with not having.
But it's a safety issue.
Well, that's what I think needs, if it's not gonna be taken down, then the safety issues need to be addressed. But I disagree though, I've seen people play tennis there, I mean, people were playing basketball, I don't know if the basketball rim is still up.
I think that, vandalized.
Yeah, I mean, if that were repaired, you're gonna see people out there playing basketball all the time, but I think we got two options, is A, we fix the hazards which need to be fixed, if they can be fixed, and if not, then take corrective action what needs to be
But how do
taken.
you keep sand off of the tennis court when you're in the middle of?
You know, I just say this.
You
it's-
can't.
It's been that way, those tennis courts have been there for how long, how many years? And people continue to
Have
play.
they been used this
50.
year? Tim, you see it over there, are they being used now or not?
Oh, yeah, they're not, I would say not as much as what they've been in the past, but yes, they've been used. I don't see where there's no activity, but I've seen it, probably decline, but I can tell you.
You see people batting a ball back and forth. You don't see an organized tennis match going on there. When you talk to the people over, or tennis players, they refuse to go there. So you can't go there.
Well, it's not the best court, you know, I mean, you got First Street, you know, which obviously is a lot better conditions, so people are gonna choose to play tennis there, but.
What happened if somebody did injure themselves in that? Would it be in the city? Or
Injures themselves how?
was that
Injure themselves how?
playing tennis, slipping on the sand? Is that a city thing?
They'd have to prove gross negligence
Exactly.
on the city.
Well, some-
City was gross.
Were those ever blown up in the past
Allow
with
it
a
to
blower?
go on.
Sometimes
Mhm.
Arthur Sand Suckers, doesn't Ludington have a sand sucker machine? I don't know what it's called.
I've never known the DPW to
I
go in
think
there
they-
with the sand.
They run that.
Been in there
every
with a
day, I
skid
think,
steer
in
removing
Ludington.
it.
Yeah, we've done it before.
Is it something that looks like it's well maintained?
Oh, the tennis, it looks old.
Does it look like an asset to the beach?
No.
If not, it should be upgraded.
I have a romantic attachment to the court, I know that. Just like to the slide.
Oh,
You're not gonna pick on that slide,
Oh,
because you're never
dude.
gonna replace it.
I think it's hard for us to make decisions for what Northside people want, you know, and like, we need to consider their sentimental feelings, what they want to do with it. I mean, before we make decisions to take things down, there's gotta be some communication with that group over there. So, and maybe some people over there, majority would want a tennis court over there, so, I don't know.
Well,
But,
maybe we should have a committee, maybe it should be Bob from Harbor Village, because you're represent,
And
live
Tim
over
from the
there,
north
and
side.
Tim from the north side, and from the North Side Association, I mean, there are strong feelings about this.
sure.
So I,
over there too.
My association said,
okay, the three of you just, and propose.
It's Fifth Avenue Beach is my responsibility, not Harbor Village.
No, I know that, I know that, but you also live over there, and
I
I think
do.
you need the input from the
I
neighbors.
check in with people, I ever see people playing there. I talk to Kindred, you see people playing there. You don't see people playing there. I don't see you there playing either.
I'm gonna take a picture and I'm gonna show you. Every time I see people playing, I'm gonna take a picture and I'm gonna send it to you.
Right.
I think it,
You're the doctor, I'm sure you will.
okay, you three get together before the next meeting, because I think that there should be some neighborhood input on this, and I believe, let the neighborhood say what they would say.
What's the question we're gonna ask them? Should we take it down and replace it with,
No, my first question is,
First of all,
what are the safety
Are they-
issues?
Yeah, and the
What are
second,
safety issues that need to be corrected so people don't get hurt, and is it usable?
So,
Is it being used? Not even is it
Can I
usable, is it
suggest-
being used?
Yeah,
I mean, if
exactly.
it's
I'd
not
like to
being
know who's
used,
using it and
maybe
what they-
there's a better, and then what would be a better purpose for this? If we took this down, do you envision a pavilion for a wedding, or give them, get them thinking, but ask, is it being used, would be my main question.
But
What
Jeff,
we
you
want
want
to
to take
know is
that
that
down,
we
would that
use
not
it.
involve city council to get them, their input on?
I
something?
think I would cover my rear end by going to council. But just taking the stuff down doesn't mean it's gonna get used for a wedding. You need walkways to get to it from the parking areas, you need power to it, you need water to it. And you need some sort of probably a rental program for that. I think that it's better to propose a reuse of that space, but do it with a master plan of that beach, and then that can be accepted by this group, city council. That includes public involvement and covers all the bases that you guys have talked about. I don't disagree with Bob at all. I don't think the use justifies keeping it as a tennis court. I think that all the tennis groups that we've reviewed with in the past have said it's not the right location. Doesn't matter if it's been there for 50 years or not, tennis players aren't playing there. And it's not a safe place to play it.
It doesn't look good.
And it should be a better use. But I think before we just start tearing stuff apart, I think there needs to be a plan and a vision of what it's gonna get reused for.
It's in my heart.
What's that?
It's in my heart.
I personally agree with you on this issue, but I don't think that just tearing it down is gonna make it something else. So we need a plan, we need to determine how we're gonna fund that plan, and then we can do those removals and implement that plan.
So I'll give the
That's my
$5,000
opinion.
to Support the new plan.
Well, there you go.
I'll give the first 1,000 to renovate it.
Well, that's a
Wow.
new plan.
There-
I'll give the $2 from Bradford. That's all I got.
I still think we gotta study up some.
It's not renovatable, you can't fix it. You cannot make it into a tennis court. You can make it into something else, but you can't make it into a tennis court.
It's not a good place for a tennis court.
You have to remain.
Mr. Maybe get some feedback for the next meeting.
I would strongly oppose investing any money to upgrade tennis at that location. Strongly oppose.
How else would you like to spend that?
Well, is there a way that it could be, is there a way that it could be modified where it wouldn't be as large as it is? Where it would still be,
For tennis use,
yeah, for feasible for tennis?
Duffy.
you'd have to build a roof and walls around it.
Wouldn't
You really
Duffy be
would.
a great
Go
place
walk.
for tennis courts?
It would
Duffy?
be.
There's no space for it.
Where is it?
We could
It's
probably
all
put them
made
Next to the
at
school.
at the
So-
Wagyu
and
Center.
stuff.
So I've
For the Fifth Avenue.
updated this group before, but I know there's new people. So
Yes, please.
the first thing that we did was recognize that we have had really crappy tennis in this community. We have 3 facilities. We have Fifth Avenue Beach, First Street Beach, and Sands Park. We made an application to the Community Foundation to upgrade Sands Park. That was the heaviest used of all of our facilities. The Community Foundation at the same time received a grant application from Manistee Township to convert their tennis courts into pickleball. So they didn't know whether they should invest in pickleball or tennis. The application I submitted said maybe I can paint pickleball on them so that there's dual usage. So they decided to study it. They went and got the high school coaches, they got tennis players from the community, and the foundation assembled their own committee. They went and visited all the assets, and they came back and said, without question, Fifth Avenue should never be used for tennis, period. Sands Park is so far gone and it needs total reconstruction that it is too expensive to rehab that facility. But First Street Beach was in pretty good shape and just needed a resurfacing. And so they asked me to resubmit the grant application, which we did, and we upgraded those 4.
Also Sands
The school's perspective, was the school would like to build tennis courts for the school purpose and the community, but in order to have school sports, you need 8 courts. So their long-term goal is to build 8 courts within the school property that would be available for all public use. And so I actually want to tear out Sands Park right now too. It is unsafe. The school puts up the nets there, and but they had personnel change because I was like, why are those nets still up? Somebody's gonna really get injured there. And so I had to go to the school and say, hey, by the way, I know you got personnel change, but you guys need to take those down and put them back up. Sands Park is jointly managed by the school and the city as an authority. And we have 2 members from each group that sits on that board. And I think we've got a meeting coming up next week. But I'm gonna ask for the support of that board to tear those out. They're unsafe. And when they do the expansion of Kennedy School, they're gonna have a lot of the traffic routed down Robinson Street, which is Robinson and 8th is where those courts are located. And they're gonna add sidewalk along Robinson, but because of where the tennis courts are and the grades up to the road, you can't safely put sidewalks in there. So I would like to tear the tennis courts out, put some fill in there, and allow sidewalks to go down to 8th Street so the kids have a safe route to the school.
Has a concrete skate park ever been talked about in that area?
I don't think so. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you saw the article in the paper about the group that is trying to get a skate park in their community somewhere in northern Michigan. And as part of their campaign, they've been traveling around to all the skate parks in northern Michigan. And they said when they came to Manistee that this was the best experience that they had to date.
Our skate park?
Yes.
Yes, and there's a lady that goes to all of them, and she's an older lady too.
Yeah, I was shocked, to be honest with you, but I was encouraged by that.
And she did like
Grand
that.
Haven has an awesome skate park. It's all concrete.
Mhm.
That's why it would be nice to have it for the kids.
You probably don't need any support from the Park Commission to authorize you to tear out those sand park tennis courts.
It doesn't hurt for me to tell the governing board that the Parks Commission supported it.
That we authorize that the city take those, dismantle those tennis courts because they're unsafe.
And the school only needs 4, you need 8 to hold a tournament, but they have 4 at First Street Beach and you can invite the kids and still hold a sanction. That's what the tennis coach told me. That the school doesn't have to put in 8. If they put in 4 and you use First Street Beach.
And you
then-
split it like they used to.
Yeah.
They used to do that with
That's-
Sands Park.
That's fine to do that, so the school doesn't have to put in 8. They have to put 4.
and 4.
Yep, to hold a
I'm
regional
I'm
meet
just
or whatever.
telling you the conversations and the meetings that I was in that, because I
It'd
even,
be nice if they put in 8, but that's so costly.
because I even laid out where they could put them on the school property or adjacent property, but
So Bob made a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
State your
Jefferson,
motion again, because I.
Yeah, because I'm,
Yeah, state your motion again.
Park Commission support the city's removal of the tennis courts in Lime Park. No,
Sands Park.
And I second
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I told you it'd be a long one.
Oh, what? Why is it
Did he
Has
pay
it
what? He voted for it.
Not in recent years, but yes, that was always the preferred, the location for those tennis courts.
So you would want it renovated?
I would rather see them renovated than torn apart. Just
Well,
because
they
that-
have to be reconstructed 100%.
But that is used, I don't know if you've seen it, but I see tons of people using the Sands Park.
Even now.
For,
Even now,
Okay.
Today?
I did too.
not today.
Yeah, they should not. Well, I mean,
I
But
did.
yes, in recent
This year?
weeks prior to.
Yeah.
Like, I saw 4 or 5 different.
the nets shouldn't even be up there. That is so dangerous.
So I think it's a central
It's just
location
such a
and the
good
beach is
location.
great, but it's nice to have something in the city, in the neighborhoods where people can bike to and gather and I think it's
Approve
an
the
asset.
application, but it's not right there.
Is there an alternate location?
Jefferson School.
That's a true.
I mean, seriously.
They had it in the original plan, I mean, voted.
Right,
So
that
the
that
task
would
force
be,
went that way.
if there were, I could support it if there were a plan in place for an alternate in the city area, but not just, like with that, and I agree, it's dangerous, I wouldn't play there as a team sport.
To rebuild those courts today would be 220,000 for those 4 courts. It was 180 when I made the grant application,
Okay.
so I'm guessing at least 220 for 4. And that, the only thing we were gonna keep is the fence, which the fence looks pretty crappy too, but,
That's a decline.
I mean, it looks bad, but it's functional.
Do you reuse the fabric, the good fabric from the fencing?
I don't think there's fabric on that.
There's not that one, I have the green slats that went go through the.
Yeah.
Gotcha, yeah, okay.
We,
Yes, and some of
I think when I made the grant application, it was like $185,000. That would be removing there's concrete on 2 courts, there's asphalt on the other, removing all that, keeping the fence, repaving, or either, I think it's new pavement, new surface on that, new post, new fence.
So it can be done.
I've been, seriously,
And build the good sidewalk.
I've probably been searching for close to 20 years to try to find money to do that. There's like no grant sources.
Question on the sidewalk, would that make that park more ADA compliant? Because I've been reading in the paper.
Yeah,
about our
yeah.
system, and, yeah, so I'm trying to.
The sidewalk along Robinson technically would not.
Okay, let's,
I'm wondering I wanted to ask you, what's the plan other than a sidewalk? What would go in there? Would it be activity-based? Would there be something other than just?
It's city property, I mean, it's school property.
It's actually owned by the Sands family.
Yes.
It is owned by the Sands family.
it does still oversee it, right? The foundation oversees that, or something, but
The governing board
this is.
is combined to 50% school, 50% city, and they operate it, but the Sands family still owns the land.
But they don't put any input on that.
Mm-mm.
Would they want a skate park?
They don't, it just requires public use and joint ownership, joint maintenance. The reality is, the city foots 100% of the bill.
Right.
The school won't.
Does not do anything, so,
Every time I ask them to help pay for something, they say, sure, which teacher do you want to lay off?
yeah, right.
One thing I was gonna say, there was some graffiti on the
You
tennis
can just sort
courts.
of verbally take that with you when you go to your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
There was some graffiti written on the tennis courts at the back, and I don't know if you got it off or who got it off.
You got it off right away.
You got it off right away, and everybody noticed how quickly it got removed. It was bad that it was there, but you did a great job. Thank
I'm
you.
happy with that.
It was bad, but you did a great job.
Hey, I saw graffiti on the river.
Anyways. Okay.
Yeah, they,
Business. Fifth Avenue, mural,
Well,
with that.
I brought that up because I guess I was surprised because it always seemed like we had this, there was a process. Tim had a process to put in his defibrillators. There was a process for the people to put the signs up at the fencing. I forget what park it was. You know, they came, Sands Park, a couple times. None of that happened, and surprise, and one of the comments I heard is, you know, it's like, well, that, it's nice and everything, but it really takes away from other uses of that, like for a wedding. I mean, and I went and looked at it, it didn't, I mean, it's cute, that's about all I can say about it. So I guess I'm wondering how that happened. When it seems like there's this process, but this process this time wasn't.
if you're asking me,
Yeah, I
The
don't know
concept-
how it happened.
the concessionaire asked to brighten up the space and asked to use an artist that she had worked with for years. She offered to pay for all the labor if the city would contribute towards some of the paint. And she had conversations with with Mickey and I, and we approved it. And that cost $200.
Is there any reason though you didn't bring it to us?
No reason, we didn't avoid you on purpose. That, we make decisions in the parks every single
I
day.
feel that way, you may not intention, but.
No, it wasn't
You know,
intentional.
all the things we do discuss, and over-discuss, you would think that, hey, I'm gonna make a major change in whatever our building, I think we ought to bring that to the park commission. Just for courtesy.
And the muralist was, how was the muralist picked again, as far as being an artist, what, you know, what, do they do murals in other cities?
The concessionaire has worked with this artist. I know that she's done classes in Manistee for over a decade and done all kinds of different things, and
I was just curious on the muralist.
yeah, there was no like selection process or anything.
Thank you.
And the neighborhood beautification, and I always get it wrong. They've,
Neighborhood Restoration Beautification Committee, yeah.
thank you. They've reached out, several members have reached out to me asking for her contact information, because I think you guys are planning some
Yeah,
other
we want it to
places.
be jury, because we're afraid that a mural would go up that we wouldn't, you know, that wouldn't benefit Manistee, so we want it
That
to be,
wouldn't fit in the space.
yeah,
Yeah,
we want it to be voted upon. Because they'll be going to public spaces.
mm-hmm.
It's a good question, because the question is,
Let's
back
paint
to
it
the
back
tree
whatever
thing.
color it
Yeah,
was. Start over.
You can make that suggestion.
Can I make a comment? Is that possible?
I think it is, I mean, is that, can we do that or not?
Well,
Well, let's wait till the end, Jane, if you don't mind, at the end.
Write a little
Okay.
note so we don't.
But at the end, because let's get through this. Okay, the discussion was brought up, we'll run through discussions on the First Street basketball courts. Is there any update on that? Someone
No.
have some money or?
I contacted him, he hasn't got back to me.
That, Glenn Arbor, the architect for that, actually did send me the contact information on those hoops. And there is a real problem in Manistee because it's happening all over. There's no hoops at Jefferson, there's no, all the beaches, we seem to lose the hoops. It's a big deal, and our, you know, basketball players here. So we want to, I think, get the hoops. What they're using in Glen Arbor are hoops that are used in prisons. And he said they're like $4,000 for the hoop in the stand, but they last, and they're beautiful. And I thought we almost.
Breakaway, glass backboards.
They're thick glass backboards, not adjustable. I said, you don't want adjustable on the
Ones
parts.
for the PV basketball and everything.
Yes, you know, but we gave the vendor, and he said they are the ones used in prison, so they can pull a 400-pound man. The rims, well, they're like, you saw the rims were like this thick. You know, it'd be a work of art to get those.
I wonder how many years it would cost to take to pay that $4,000 back. I mean, how many times you replace those basketball hoops before you hit the $4,000?
Why are they missing?
Yeah, or maybe buy cameras down there and go after whoever's vandalizing these. You know?
I'm not in enforcement.
The vandalism is just terrible in this community right now. It's just a darn shame.
Yes, it
Is
is.
it scrap? Are they using it for scrap?
No, I just.
Not that.
Can I ask you a question?
I know.
Are the basketball, and I gotta look at this again, are the basketball hoops right across from residents? Where the kids maybe are playing at night? And the
Some.
residents take.
If you go to Duffy Park,
Yes.
there's none of that issue.
Okay.
And that's more remote. First Street is so darn visible. There's people driving by every second, but they get trashed. Those are all brand new nets up there. If you look at them, they're all completely shredded. What's that?
And Reach Park, you know, them baskets have.
Are they breaking the whole, are they breaking the rim down?
Breaking the rim, and then eventually that breaks the backboard. The more you reinforce the rim to the backboard, and
These gets vandalized or they're?
So are they jamming?
Yeah.
Are they breaking? Is that what's going on there?
yeah, there's graffiti up there, and
Well, the ones Liz is talking about, they're used in prisons, are they anti-vandal? or
I would
anti-break?
think so.
Yeah.
I think have more
I
heavy
think that
duty
they
over
were
there.
used in the prison.
Quite frankly, that's very intriguing if we could find a way to fund that. I mean, seriously.
Need, I mean,
That's what
right
we
now,
had to
there's
do.
what, 6
Well,
baskets?
maybe
There's 6 at First Street.
Would we
They
only
keep the
maybe need
information.
2?
Okay, and
At
let's,
least to
yeah.
start.
You could start off that way.
That would be good questions to ask,
You
how,
have to really have 6 baskets down there.
Pardon me?
You might just be able to do two instead of.
Right.
Start
Maybe
with
do
two,
the
and
full
just
court
start with
and
two,
then
see how
do
they
the
last.
side
If someone
baskets.
had volunteered some money, say we don't wanna replace them all, let's just,
Maybe
some of them
start
can be
with
mended,
me,
because I actually
by
called, what's his?
Contacting them, could somebody on the Parks Commission contact them, or?
No, because I think he contacted Brandon and I. He don't need anybody to know, but he's been busy right now and he hasn't gotten contact with him.
Okay.
What about that one grant, that $5,000 grant?
That Minger one.
Minger one. You know, that might be a place to start for funding for one.
One hoop, and just
Yeah.
try it, just an experimental vote if you do.
Can you pass me that information?
Yes.
And, because if we look into funding sources, I think that's the only way to keep them decent, is to make them bulletproof.
To make them, yeah.
And
And
it's
I think
sad
there
when
is
you,
less bad.
it's sad when you walk through town and you see things in disrepair. It doesn't reflect good on our city, and I know we're doing the best we can, but it's just sad.
Yeah, and respectfully, it's really frustrating for us, because every time seriously, Mickey, why didn't you fix it? He's like, I just did it yesterday.
It's hard to move ahead when they're constantly pushing.
Right?
back.
I mean, every time we fix them, they break them
It's
again,
like my
and
4 boys at home. Every time I clean up and I turn around and like.
Yeah.
but
Can we put a camera down there?
what's that?
Can we put a camera on it?
You can put a fake one.
You can put cameras anywhere.
Yeah. But then somebody's got to monitor. 'em.
Somebody's got to watch
They're
them.
fake ones.
Well,
They
you
know they're
monitor
fake.
them, you know, after the event happens and you see who did it, you know, and so you don't have to constantly be monitoring them. You can do that.
It's
But then you'd have to prosecute it.
Yes.
Or you think, no,
they're not as effective as people think they are, and I don't like saying that in public, but it's not the solution.
Yeah, you know.
Because what they do, they break the camera first.
That's why I said.
Okay.
I mean, when we installed cameras at our recycling center when it was over in the industrial park,
Right.
they would wave to us on the way in. They knew where the dead spot was, where they would leave their stuff, and then they'd wave to you on the way out. And you know it's them, but you can't prove, because they know where the camera angle cut off at somehow. It's frustrating.
But you could get them for another reason, because they're probably speeding as they're going down city streets, and so you could catch them for another reason.
Well, we just had a cutting board stole at the fish cleaning station. There's a camera pointing straight at it.
They got away with it.
They didn't find them.
Are those expensive?
$150 a piece.
I mean, that's expensive.
And we've got them cabled in because they were taking them when we first installed them.
Cable everything.
That's a,
So what do they
that's a
do?
sad
Cable,
issue, you know? Yeah. That's what.
The big things like
Yeah.
cut off
It's a societal issue, though.
lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we went to Glen
Because they
Arbor,
work so hard.
you know, there, Glen Arbor, they had a, ping pong table out. And I said, well, how do you check out, like after hours, the paddles? He looked at me and didn't understand the question, but where's the checkpoint that you can get these paddles after hours? He goes, Liz, they're right there in a pocket. We keep them right on the table. I said, for how long? He said, 5 years since we've been open. Nobody is stealing in Glen Arbor. So, and I don't know what that is. Manistee has changed.
But you have to understand that our parks, our city of Manistee parks, but they're really the parks for the county.
Oh, I know, I'm just saying.
Everybody comes in, we get a ton of people from out of town,
Yeah.
Yeah, but they have a lot of tourists that live
Yeah, they have,
but it's also a very affluent community too.
Maybe not affluent people won't steal.
How about if we start trusting people again? I would be the first one to put rubber basketballs at a new rimmed park, and I would donate them. And the city could hold on to them. And once, you know, just maybe that's, I don't know.
I don't know.
But, I don't know. Kids take their balls home because they want to play. I don't know what they're doing with the backboards. If they're not putting them up at their houses, what are they doing with them?
Well, the backboards are for the most part there, it's just the rims of the destruction of them.
Unless they're jamming
Yeah.
on them, they're inexpensive rims. I don't
Why use
understand
the
how they-
swinging when you can use the basketball hoop?
Yeah, this is true. And they're more fun. And they're 10 feet down at least.
Okay. Develop master plan for future projects, is that?
That's the question. I read in the paper today about the new master plan for the county. Are we gonna receive one of those so we can see what the updates are? I've got the old one.
That's the most current one, and this group did participate in the city's portion of
Okay,
that.
because when I looked at the date, it said 2016. And I know that they have to be updated every 5 years to keep them
No.
current.
Oh, it was after that.
Oh, it is?
I
They
wanna-
had-
It might have been 20,
It should be.
20.
What I read in the paper, it was 2022.
It was 21, because remember, we couldn't apply for our grant for
Yeah.
the Memorial Park until that was
Gotcha.
recorded. So it's like brand new.
Okay, where can I obtain one? I would like one. Because what I have is old, I believe.
Liz, I think the developing the master plan was Kelly's idea. We need to have projects that,
That's
So
what I think.
that was an overview that was sent to Jeff, and was anything done with it, or was it just kind of a, that's nice? I mean, the-
I'm not sure what you mean. I read through it.
Right, for both beaches. Is anything being checked off those lists, or was it, is anything being done with it at all?
Well, I think a lot of the stuff is pretty common sense and things that we do daily and stuff that, the bigger stuff we try to put into the capital improvement
Is it in some sort of
plans.
plan? Yeah, right. Is it in?
Yeah, I got that after the current budget was put in place, so it's not in the current capital improvement plan, if that's what you're asking.
Could it be helpful for the next plan upcoming? When? Okay.
I'm not quite sure what you're looking for.
Let's talk to them about it. Maybe bring it up, what's being done and what's not being done.
Let's keep it on, I think we're running late. Let's keep that on the agenda for next time. And let's put it on and put it,
And we can have a side conversation so I understand what you're,
yeah, let's.
okay.
Okay, the sculpture by Right Side Design.
Yeah, what happened?
There was a presentation and they were gonna be done by July 4th and everything was great and they look great.
We did all of our preparation
Yes,
for
you did.
them.
Yes, you did, and yours is still down there, but what happened to that? It was,
The last I talked to him, he said they were making the sculptures, he painted out, and we took out the topsoil and sod, replaced it with the sand, and I haven't heard anything since.
because didn't he get a grant for that? I mean, aren't there some stipulations in that grant when the work should be
I
performed?
think it was a grant that the CVB got, the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
But it still should be fulfilled. I mean, it's like.
It'd be nice to know what the status.
Yeah, I'll
Nice
I'll
know
reach
what
out to
the
him.
status is, and if it's, when it's, I guess the question would be when will it be
Yeah,
fulfilled?
'cause it sounded great.
It sounded great. I thought people, he said before July 4th, we had approved it that night. and it was all
Historical,
good.
nice, yeah. I liked it.
Yeah. There was a Bright Side Design came in and did this presentation with, kind of Native Americans and silhouettes
Oh,
of
yes,
the
I did
reflective
read
walk.
The historical, yeah,
Historical reflective walk at the base of, at First Street. Beach.
Cherry and First, yeah.
Yeah, right there where the new rocks are, which look very nice, and we just thought, oh, with all that new stuff that's been done, that would be a great compliment, we're all excited, and then the city did their part, and it never materialized.
Yeah, honestly, I've just been waiting for it to happen and have other things to worry about. Yeah, I'll reach out to Brandon and
So
find
we'll
out.
keep that on the agenda. Porta Johns, I put that on, I get, out of all the things, and it's not even our jurisdiction, because those Porta Johns, that's what I get texts from. Do you know what the Porta John at First Street, just because I'm on this, I mean, it wasn't like I was, like, the Porta John, it's toilet papers, whose responsibility, the one person wants to text back, whose responsibility is to replace the toilet paper in the Porta John? And it's like, jeez. And then, the Fifth Avenue one, I guess, is really, this summer, has needed to be emptied a lot quicker than they are taking it away, the one by the Coast Guard station there. I got lots of texts on that, so. They might need two there, or, and I thought, the Porta John, is that the same company that we've always used?
Mhm. They have new owners, though.
It just seems this year, and then at First Street Beach, for a long time, after the 4th, there were 4 of them there, but they turned them so that they touched each other, so you could not get into them, and there was only one usable one.
And that was, I think people had a permit to have a function down there, and they rented those porta potties for their function. It had
Okay.
nothing to do with us or the chamber or whatever. That was, somebody had something down there in Douglas Park, I think, gazebos.
So then they turned the porta johns? I don't know.
No, I can't help you with
I
that.
mean, that, so, yeah, I'd say it's not ours.
So basically, we pay a monthly rental rate on every one of those. I think it's $85 a month
Yeah.
for everyone that we have out there.
You pay 85 a month for,
Yep,
Per unit.
per unit.
Can we tell them we don't want orange?
yeah, Traverse City only uses dark green. You know, a lot of towns have uniformity in the color. I mean, we're not decorating with porta johns, but, it would be nice to have a uniform color. Because those hunter orange, nobody else has those, and, you know, when you go
But
around.
as I explained, because you
And I
had
know-
requested
Yeah,
information, they are more anti-graffiti. That's why they're made out of a different polymer than the gray ones.
okay.
Like I sent you that email, but
Right.
I obviously didn't get it, that he was gonna leave the gray ones, had that been made out of the same anti-graffiti plastic or whatever it is. Obviously they weren't, so that's why we still have the orange ones.
Okay.
They don't come in any other color and not.
He has no other color, you know,
Yeah, and
Yeah,
85.
I'm sure they do,
He does have ones that are
But-
gray.
Yeah.
but
Manistee said
when
it's
Mickey
like
reached
that.
out to that vendor, he didn't have them.
We're destroying it.
But,
So how much?
but what I was gonna say
what's
is,
changing?
what I was gonna say is, they are responsible for routinely pumping them, cleaning them, and replacing the supplies. And when we get reports, then Katie contacts them and lets them know that it needs to be cleaned. So if you forward that stuff to us, then we can reach them and,
So,
Is it only cleaned on request, or is there a
Every
No.
Tuesday.
daily maintenance?
Tuesdays are day.
it,
okay,
and I'll give you a good example, okay? They get cleaned weekly, but everybody in this community that has kids or grandkids goes to Mac Park for T-ball season. Well, that porta-john doesn't need to be cleaned more than once a month until T-ball season, and then it needs to be cleaned multiple times. So we contact them and alert them that, hey, got heavy usage right now, and
okay,
so those type of things are good for us to know.
okay. And then let's watch the one at Fifth Avenue, you know, if we go by there, stop and see, because maybe we do need two there. That might be a.
The one by the Coast Guard?
Yeah, and I don't know why people don't walk up. Are they not aware that there's nice ones in the
That-
building?
Probably the fishermen and maybe on the pier.
Yeah, maybe
There's a lot
fishing
of-
early in the
yeah.
morning or before it's open, maybe after, you know, in the evening. For some reason, that seems to be a popular one. Okay.
Well, it's,
After our bathrooms automatically lock.
Pardon me?
After our bathrooms automatically lock.
Yeah, so, and people drive, so, anyway.
and we had to lock them because of vandalism.
Of course. City Marina,
So I got a email from Katie that she wanted to paint for the picnic tables, but I didn't hear back from her. Were the picnic tables power washed before they were stained?
No.
Because I noticed when I went and looked at one, you can see the algae underneath the paint, so. but
Well, they
this-
scrubbed them all off, so I mean, they were clean and dry. We just didn't power wash them, but they scrubbed them and, yeah, they looked good actually, and they look really good.
I was gonna get the paint darkened to match
Oh.
the trim,
Yeah,
and that's why I stopped.
yeah, that's okay.
So,
They're done, they look nice, they look good.
and I saw a lot of people playing shuffleboard,
Mhm.
the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
And the shuffleboard.
yeah, yeah.
how can we get the numbers up at that marina? Katie, what, you know, it's not, you're doing something about that, it's just,
So that was a big part of the Harbor Commission discussion this week, and they're working on a marketing plan.
okay, good, yeah, and it's out of the park, but the marina's a park, so I just like, yeah.
Do you feel the landscaping needs to be updated? I took a landscaper through there, and he said that a lot of the shrubbery should be pulled, that it's beyond.
Yeah, it's 50 years old.
Yeah, right. And that many of the trees should be pulled as well, that there's no sun that comes through there either. So is that something that we could put in a capital improvement?
We can. There's a lot of needs in there. I mean, literally, it's 50 years old. There's a lot of things that have ended their life cycle.
Right. And what's the status on getting the doors painted on the bathrooms?
need time to get
Oh,
it. Well, one does need repairs, so we have to talk to our facilities repair firm.
He's ordering a piece
Oh,
for
yes.
that door, yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
that- we can't pay them until the trims are
Yeah.
repaired.
Could we help you? Do you need help?
We receive the,
Sure.
yeah, if you want to help, I can supply the stuff, yeah.
Okay.
Once,
But I have to have the doors repaired though.
yeah,
Yeah, so once they're repaired, just let me know and I'll,
I will certainly do that,
okay,
yeah.
Good.
excellent.
Last one is recognition of Jane Seifert and Kelly Reedy. Jane was the gal that came in here, made that presentation, asking for, some money for the shrubbery. But she's from the county, and it's like, that's so positive that someone from the county, she contributes her own money, her and her husband. And she does much, but mainly works in that park by the credit bureau down there. I don't know if you've ever stopped in there, people are eating lunch in there now, it's beautiful in there. She has seasonal perennials that she's purchased and bought, puts plums in the fall. She's done a great job on that park.
That
And
art
then-
part is strictly volunteer run. and
Yes.
A lot of,
Beautiful.
a lot of her own money is.
And it's
put
her
in
own
that.
money, she's a gardener, and it shows, and I thought, she comes in and does that. And then, was it DDA or who paid for that little cabana?
The
But that-
DDA paid for it, but the Seagards put it up. And
Yeah.
then all of the benches were washed and stained. And the picnic table, they gave us the wrong color stain. We picked up the wrong color stain, so we've got to stain it again to match the roof of the new gazebo. But the DDA paid for that.
But stop and visit that, because it's good, it's nice, and it's,
Yep, and it's a lot of work for them.
oh yeah, they're down there all the time, and they come in from the county, which I really appreciate, because, like what you just said, the county uses everything, they participate in that, but they're not paying the same tax rate, and
they're not paying anything
they're
for
not
it.
paying anything. And they also aren't volunteering or doing, just, they're not on these commissions, or they're not doing it, so when she comes in, that was a good thing.
They also
So
updated the tree.
the recognition is what? You
The tree park.
want us to send a letter to them saying the Park Commission really appreciates the work
Well,
you've
you know what,
done?
Bob, that's a great idea.
How
Yes.
about a letter
Can
from?
we have our secretary draft a letter for us?
What happened with the last one?
You know what, that is a good idea, instead of us just talking.
Well, maybe we can just do a thank you card.
Okay,
I'll get the thank you card.
I think this, I mean, you probably want to do something better than that, but the city does have just the logo on it that we often will just handwrite something, but you could do whatever you want.
Well, I didn't know if we were allowed to use official city letterhead.
I would like to see both, a card and something from the city, I think, a proclamation of some sort. That shows them appreciation for what they've done, to beautify the city.
It's a weird place because it's open to the public, but it's not a city park.
Oh, so maybe that's what I mean.
But
Maybe just the
the
parks.
owners have given their property to the public to use.
They've leased
pay
it,
for the
well,
water.
they've approved it, they haven't given it.
let's do,
No,
just.
what I'm saying is it's open to the public.
That's what I said, it's open to the
Yeah.
public,
Yeah, and I mean, they have water bills and stuff.
but it's not a city facility.
Oh, okay. So,
Because, except for what the DDA paid for, I don't think there's a dime in that was ever put in by the city. That was all fundraised, all volunteer, from way back when the school art teacher put it
We
in.
can use city letterhead
It's
in our
not-
letter of commendation.
What's that?
We can use city letterhead in our letter of commendation.
Well, there's just a little card.
Oh, like a thank you card.
And that's-
Yeah, it's just
That's
a,
so hard.
it literally just has City of Manistee and it's blank.
I just think send her something, and, because she's also did that.
I don't know
with
if we have
McDonald's.
the new logo, but I got some of the old stuff.
And Mary Jo
And
Gordon
volunteers
too.
are good.
We also have Mary Jo Gordon too.
Should we go around her flag and see? is
So
that-
I'll just give you.
And Diane St. John Butterfly. There's a
Yeah.
lot of, and probably Gordy Hunold
For the
did the.
blanks.
I mean, there's a lot of,
And he gets the,
Yeah, you gotta recognize those.
there's a lot of.
I think we have to recognize those.
So-
Because
So instead of sending a card, why don't you invite them all to a little gathering and we can tell them that we appreciate their work.
when we get our tether balls up.
Have a tournament,
Tether ball competition.
little tournament, yeah.
Picnic at the park.
yeah, coffee in the park.
Yeah, there you go.
Cinnamon rolls in the park. Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I haven't even met some of these people. I'd like to meet them.
Do we have, is there status on Wood Park? Sorry, just thought of that.
We are way over the budget. Once the vendor put all of the costs in, the total went way over the budget. And so I've been working with him to trim things out. As an example, they had installation for everything. And I said, well, either we're gonna work with the Parks Commission and get a community build going, or I'll have our staff dedicate 2-3 days and we'll build it ourselves. And so that takes away $5,000-6,000. They had tax in that quote. We're tax exempt, so I can wipe that stuff out.
So this was from our wish list that we made?
This is if we implement the total wish list. So there's, depending on the that's when I met with you last time, and when we pick out the benches, the picnic tables, once I have those and configure those in, then I'd like to come back to you and say, here's your total wish list, here's the total cost of implementing that wish list, and we will probably need to delay a few things. And I will warn you, the equipment is not that spectacular. I mean, it's literally a swing set, and the only thing I changed on it was making sure we had an infant seat in one of the spaces, but it's a swing set, right? There's nothing real fancy about it. The slide, I can show you a picture. It is a ladder going up, and a slide doing this is $4,000, and a slide doing this is, it's almost $8,000. The prices are crazy. But I need, and he also didn't give me my deal pricing, so I'm just kind of working through all those things. But the couple pieces that I need to know is that standard trash receptacle, standard bench, and then I can kind of get that finalized. So we're still moving forward on it. I'm still in contact with them, still working through those details.
Is there a deadline for the winter?
Well, I got the money pushed into this budget, so it's something that I want to build this spring. He said there'd be, a couple months ago when I met with him at that point, he said there was probably no chance of getting a fall construction, just in how slow the delivery of materials are. But was real optimistic about getting materials for the spring and putting everything in. So my intention is to do as much in-house as we can, but we have $35,000, and when you literally take a swing set and a little puny slide, and that takes up a third of your budget, the rest doesn't go very far.
Just something in the future, as Manistee Public's dismantling school buildings. I mean, I probably have playground equipment, I don't know what they're gonna do with it, but if there's any of that we can reutilize and repurpose. Just throwing it out there to think about.
And the equipment that's there now, can't we refurbish that?
Some of it we may be able to
But
keep.
the swings, I think looked like the stand was okay for the swings. And that slide was probably as well made as maybe better. It's an old slide, but it needs paint.
Well, the slide there was vandalized
Was it?
pretty severely. Somebody beat it with a golf club. I mean, beat it.
Spent some time on it.
It wasn't
Hear
10.
that sound.
It wasn't 10 swings, and it's on the metal part.
When
And
was that, this year?
yeah, it was this spring.
Yeah.
The police did catch that juvenile.
What'd you
Yeah,
do to him?
somebody turned him in.
Good. Oh, good.
He was prosecuted.
Good.
Well, but doesn't the city have insurance for things like that? I mean, I know the city has insurance for vandalism like that. So I don't know what the deductible is or anything, but,
Yeah, I don't know if we filed an insurance claim on that.
Yeah, because it sounds like it's a
I don't recall.
$48,000 slide.
You might be able to get a nicer slide to and better slide to replace the one that was better.
Yeah, I'll check on that. That's good, good thought.
That's the kind of.
Did we ever find out other
Do kids
kids,
play
is it a neighborhood? Do kids play in that? That was my question all along. I mean, when we wanted to go door to door, I think we were told not to, and it's like, so if we can't go door to door to ask what their needs are, is this where there should, is it safe? Do you
I throw it out all the time. I'm on the Parks Commission. What is it that you'd like to see in the park that's close to you?
We just said it wasn't safe to go door to door. It's kind of
Well,
safe to neighborhood. And now I probably went up to just said that.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that
you don't know what's on.
my personal observation is when you live in that neighborhood, you support the park and the improvement 100%. And when you don't live in the neighborhood, then you're kind of indifferent about it. So I know like the council person that has that district is hard set on keeping it and improving it. But also doesn't want improvements at 9th Street Boat Launch because that's a little neighborhood place for swimming and fishing. So, I mean, everybody has a little different view on it.
But that.
I don't see
there is
much
a
use.
problem, because Casman, she said that was the problem with their park, and Casman had a very, very nice park.
Yeah,
And it was utilized, but the vandalized, it was vandalized everything there. She said they did get lights there, that helped, now that it was lit at night.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, I don't notice that much use there at all. I don't know if you,
Yeah, I.
Have any opinion?
Every now and then, just.
I do too.
And I don't see it being used.
We go there with the dog.
But-
Not like 9th Street Boat Launch.
but with all due respect,
Yeah.
this wasn't a request that the city staff made in the budget. This was council directing us,
Yeah.
here's money, go make it better.
Mhm.
So that's what I intend to do.
Correct. Well, it's a park, it's needs, it's held.
And another example is Tuesday night, the mayor questioned about moving sand at Fifth Avenue and recalled that we had a plan to put some walls in on the beach side of the parking lot, on the back side, and then even down below on the sidewalks to help protect some of the erosion and mitigation or sand migration. And suggested or requested that I bring those estimates up to date, and she was gonna have council consider using some of the ARPA funds for that. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but,
ARPA funding. What, I haven't seen a whole lot from the city of Manistee on requests for ARPA funding. Is that something this body does, or is it something that DPW would do for ARPA?
so the city received, I think, about 600,000.
Oh, that's on the
The
road.
county received 4.7 million. So the county seems to be doing kind of a
Got it.
competition kind of thing, submittal. What city council, or what city council requested was staff to put together a list of options and opportunities, and then we prioritized those and submitted those to council, and council incorporated some of the items in the current budget, and then decided to defer and make decisions as other projects come up and spend the money within the 3 years.
600,000 came to the city.
Yeah, we got much less.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Can I quickly go back to San Marino real quick?
Mm-hmm.
I got a phone call from Jennifer Flynn. She's the seeds director from Traverse City, and I get a bunch of young people again to help.
Ah,
She has funding for that, and I suggested the city marina. Would you want to give me a list of things that we could come and do for you? That we could help with?
That would be great.
If not, then we'll take them somewhere else.
can I throw out some other ideas? Give me a little bit to think about them, but I'll give you a call.
Okay, it's gonna be a couple of weeks before.
Yeah, because those kids worked their butts off last year.
They were good kids.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Right alongside us old people.
Well, I think you guys are an inspiration to them. I mean, seriously, that was awesome.
Yeah, they were great.
Good. Anything else? Let's go around quick and we'll wrap it up.
No, good.
Oh, Jane, your comment was,
In regards to Fifth Avenue, yeah, talking about a mural or painting or whatever, I just want to make a comment that that bathhouse is one of the success stories for the city of Manistee. It's a beautiful structure. It's beautiful the way it's angled when the doors are open and looking out to the light, to the lighthouse. So anyway, I think there needs to be some oversight for any painting that goes on there, although I guess it's on the inside you're talking, not on the outside. Okay, just so that there is some oversight there. Then the other thing, talking about the basketball hoops, you're talking about First Street, adjacent to the Hampton Inn property, right? Is that where you're?
yes.
Next to
Okay.
the volleyball court.
And that's where you're having trouble. Okay, at night, whoever is down there is driving up with cars all around those hoops with their headlights on. And that's in the middle of the night. I don't go to bed till 2 o'clock in the morning usually. And there's lights, bright lights on all the time. Well, not all the time, a lot. Yeah.
Maybe they're playing it.
So I don't know if that has something to do with
Playing it.
what's going on. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I will talk to the police chief and ask for some additional enforcement because,
Well, the park's not.
but we have it posted for no driving on the grass.
I've never seen that, but I haven't been looking at those.
Yeah,
parks.
there's signs down there.
Yeah, well, the park is not policed. I mean, the noise, the drag racing, there's a lot that goes on.
Oh, can I just say something real quick? I noticed when I went to Rotary Park this afternoon, there's a sign that says no parking beyond this point, that someone seems to have backed into, and now it's.
I think we fix that every week, don't we?
Oh, really?
Seriously.
Could be suspended between
They
holes or
changed the
something.
point.
Well, at least they didn't drive beyond that point and knock it down. I know we fixed it, because we fixed it right before the 4th, and we fixed it once before, but thank you. But that's the signs I'm referring to, is because people always try to pull up to those basketball courts.
Yeah.
So we gave recognition to Jane, but I don't think we gave recognition to Kelly.
I've had plenty.
No,
No, not enough.
So we ought to give you some special recognition.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Do you want a card from the city?
No.
I'll sign.
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Thank you.
I move you adjourn.
Oh, we got
I just have a couple things quick, if I can. Like, I will make them so quick. Just so you know, North Beach Access, we had to reroute people around the water tower painting, but my God, are there a lot of people using that this year, more than I can ever remember. The cars are everywhere. Painting was completed today with the murals, so that site will be cleaned back up and reopened.
Are you
So
talking
Manistee
about
is up there
the
now?
city garage down on the end there?
Yeah, the North Water Tower.
Yeah.
What are those panels that are up on top of the water tower?
That's how your cell phone works.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it
That
is.
is not how your cell phone works.
Those are the cell phone antennas.
No.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. And they're hazardous to our health, and you should really look into it. They are 5G, and they are hazardous to our health.
Okay.
I would like to have a conversation with you about that.
Okay. They haven't upgraded them to 5G. We have 4G here,
Yeah.
and we get about $90,000, $80,000 a year into the water system for that. Memorial Park, we should know about the grant in September. There's going to be a closure of the lower parking lot at First Street Beach beginning the end of August. The lower parking lot right at the end of First Street
Yeah.
that leads out to the breakwater.
Yeah.
The Corps of Engineers is going to be reconstructing the inland portion of the breakwater August, September, and hope to be finished in October. No, it's the top cap of it is,
Remember when that happened?
has big voids in it. We've put steel plates over it to protect people, but there's an old section of it that goes out to a sheep piled section. They're gonna continue the sheep pile shoreward. And the harbor will be dredged, at the beginning of August. That's enough.
And the dumping is gonna
Oh.
go further on down the beach this year,
They're gonna put the sand to the north,
to the north, all the way down? Or is that-
I've asked for the city limits, basically in front of the Dunes Drive
Right,
to nourish that beach.
right.
They permitted it actually another, I think 1,500 feet or yards beyond that, because that was
Do you
when,
know what the structure that goes out into the water right there by Dunes Drive?
yes, that is the stormwater outfall for the industrial park. And it's a concrete pipe, but it has the steel sheet piling to protect it from waves and other erosive actions.
So it's probably new.
From the 70s, it's 50 years old.
Right, okay.
And, and you guys brought this up earlier, but there is a lot of renewed interest in what I term Sunset Park, which is the stage pavilion down at First Street Beach. So we've identified a $1 million grant that we are going to apply for at the end of this year. And we are working on securing the money to advance our feasibility study. And there's a,
Sunset Park, what is that?
Where the pavilions, the music.
The kite, where the
They
kite
have
was.
those.
There,
Yeah.
it's where Mrs. Shimke was referring to the kite flying area.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got a question.
That's great.
Were you given any kind of monies? I mean, is there any number thrown out with what was made from the smoke on the water?
I don't have any results, but they have openly, they've been raising money towards the feasibility study for several years. So they've pledged 10,000. The city council placed some ARPA money into that as another example of their expenditure. And then we also discussed if there's still a gap, maybe going for one of those small Minger grants to, and the purpose of the feasibility study is really to create a business plan. It's in the concept of that, we had a very formal group that was studying this project. At the time, the cost estimates were $3 million to build that. But we decided that a feasibility study was appropriate to size it properly. So the concept at the time, and it could change, was if you build this structure and you had seating for 2,000 people, okay, what type of event or artist could you bring in here? What would you have to pay them? Could you fill the 2,000 seats? And then how much profit can you make on that? From the profit, can that pay down some debt on building the capital improvement? But then also we talked about and met with the Ramsdell Regional Center for the Arts about them booking the talent and possibly them getting some of those proceeds to stop some of the city subsidy and expanding the arts in the community. But we didn't know, should we plan on drawing 500, 1,000, 2,000? And part of that conversation, ironically, was, do we have enough hotel rooms to attract people to the community? Well, there's 100 coming in, and I just saw the first draft, or my first time seeing the final draft of the Gateway Hotel. That's going to be pretty impressive too.
They'll have to pave more parking lot,
What's that?
pave more parking lot.
Well, honestly, the size of that parking lot is set up perfectly for a venue like that, and it doesn't get as much use as it should.
Hasn't the
Well, the
Hamilton
hotel will
gone
be-
up to 4.5?
What's that?
The inn will be using part of the parking lot.
Yeah, but they're also offsetting new parking within the park more than what they would be using in that parking lot. So also, I don't know if you're aware, but in the spring, we're gonna repave the entire loop at First Street Beach. And that some of those pavement sections are wide enough where we can just put angled parking with a drive lane and add a whole bunch more parking than what's already there just by reusing.
Is the hotel helping with that, Andrew?
The hotel's paying for 20 or 30 new spaces, basically 20 new spaces, but it equates to 30 additional parking spaces, yeah.
On the street?
The hotel is paying for that in exchange for being allowed to put a curb cut into the boat launch parking lot to be able to be used as overflow parking. So it's a net gain to the community in overall parking, plus it adds better access into that parking lot from people using the beach. And then we're using brownfield tax capture, a portion of that, to repave all the streets down there and then add even additional parking more than what the hotel is contributing.
What about a parking garage?
You're gonna need a heck of a lot more
I
parking
have-
than
So-
that. If it's 2,000. If it's 2,000.
That's where they're gonna do the feasibility study.
Yeah,
What's that hose going from the city water there in Hampton?
so that's temporary water, construction water.
Do they pay for that?
They pay for that. They pay a bulk rate.
What are they paying for that?
I don't know what the bulk rate is. The bulk rate does not favor you. If you metered it, we would make less money off of it.
Because I think the parks pays, it's probably a transfer of money, but it still comes out of the parks department. Isn't it 22,000 we're transferring to the city for water usage in the park?
Yeah, but that's the metered irrigation. It's really not that right there, but
So
yeah,
all of this is happening now in the spring. The-
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
yeah.
Is it pavement or asphalt? You're saying pavement, I'm just curious.
They're gonna totally redo it, they're not just resurfacing.
The-
It's not cement.
The current term is HMA,
Okay,
hot mix asphalt.
okay, that's what I wanted to know, thank you.
How long does it last?
Hot mix asphalt? Well, the stuff down there now is probably 100 years old. No, in Michigan, asphalt lasts about 14 years and then it starts to crack. It's got a very short life. But down there, you're not confining with curb and gutter. You don't have that heavy of truck traffic, so.
What will curbs be put in?
We're only putting in curb, just past the kite flying area where it's kind of open sand and we get a lot of erosion there. I'm gonna put some curb in only where we need to control stormwater.
So you don't want curbing all the way around the loop?
I would love it. There's no money for it. Yeah.
Okay, Bob.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'll second.
We're all second.
Sorry for extending it out.
Sure.
I'm ready to go too.
I went to the Lions Pavilion today, and there's all these like stakes along the sidewalk. Seems like somebody's gonna impale themselves. Is that
I don't know
you
what that
guys?